all of the opportunities that you seek for. It is in listening and following. There could just be one key information that you could grab, and that may be what it's all for the 4-day commitment that ETF demands of every one of us. Same level of commitment as we anticipate today is also expected for the remaining days, tomorrow and next. Every day offers us a whole lineup of unique activities and fresh opportunities. Let me state, as a science diplomat who's had the opportunity of being the only one selected in the inaugural cohort of GESDA, the Geneva Science Diplomacy Anticipator, the biggest multilateral platform on science diplomacy, where 30 people were selected globally to engage at the United Nations, and I was the one representing the entire West Africa. So let me confirm, as a science diplomat, that Enugu is fully positioned on all fronts to provide tech leadership for the African continent under the distinguished leadership of Dr. Peter Mba. The primary purpose of governance and government is security and welfare, so says the Constitution. And of course, welfare also have other arms, which includes education, health, job creation. Friends, you can all agree with me that this current administration has been able to leverage on technology to enhance outcomes both in security and in welfare. In security, through AI embedded systems that allow faster response and better oversight. In education, through the smart schools, where students are exposed to robotics, mechatronics, artificial intelligence, and applied engineering. And I'm happy to announce to you that by Friday, we'll have some young tech builders from the Enugu Smart Green Schools who will be coming here to present, some of the tech projects they have developed, which also includes a moving robot. And I'm sure you'll be happy to see that on Friday. So don't miss out. All of these are happening at the instance of uncommon infrastructural transformation in Enugu State, alongside the advent of Enugu Air, which have made air travel in and out of Enugu more accessible and affordable. You're someone who travel a lot through the air. Before now, sometimes, like when you begin to get close to where you want to travel, sometimes even accessing a flight, not to talk about, the high payment you have to make, but with several, fleets in and out of Enugu made available through the Enugu Air, we can all boast of making air travel, which interestingly is also the safest way to travel, more accessible and affordable. With the milestones so far and the sustainable template of the current administration, we can affirm that Enugu is positioned to take the lead in Africa's tech evolution. And we all can be super excited that we are part of history making.
Shape the future, but who will shape technology? That's a question you and I ought to answer. And while you're doing that, Enugu is providing an opportunity to help you shape the future of technology. Please, let's celebrate the Enugu State government once again for Enugu Tech Fest 2026. You can do better than that. We're talking about the Enugu State government. Thank you so much. Next up, we'll be having the fireside chat. And the topic is on driving financial inclusion and digital payments innovation in Nigeria's heartland, or the future of secure, seamless transactions in a cashless economy. This will be handled by our lead compere, no other person than Dr. Adora Onyechere Sydney Jack, an international broadcaster and entrepreneur. Please put your hands together as I welcome her on stage. Please keep clapping till she gets here. She is our lead compere. She will introduce the person who will be answering questions on this particular subject matter. Like I said, keep clapping till she gets here. You look lovely, by the way. Very lovely.
Good morning, everyone. I know the energy is quite low. Good morning, everyone. I think this side of the hall, there's some sort of energy drink that they had because there's a lot of energy. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. It's coming. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so let's keep quiet on this side. Let's just do this side first. Good morning, everyone. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. So all of us, good morning, everyone. Fantastic. Please put your hands together for yourself. It's been an amazing, profound, 2 days. This is day 2. And yesterday when we started, there was a lot of unveiling, a lot of sharing. There's a lot of learning as well. I mean, from some of the speakers, one of the highlights somebody took away was that riches are loud, but wealth whispers. And so that means when you think of wealth, you're thinking of systems, you're thinking of structure, you're thinking of sustainability, you're thinking of growth. And I think that stood out for a lot of us here. This fireside chat really is going to be looking at financial inclusion. So I'll start with a quote. Financial inclusion is not charity, it is the architecture of opportunity. Now, in an era where Nigeria's cashless ambition is accelerating, the true measure of progress is not how advanced our systems are, but how accessible those opportunities become. And we're talking about Tech Fest here in Enugu, and digital transformation only matters when it reaches the last mile. So the last mile is about community, it's about the suburban areas, it's about the villages. And innovation in Nigeria's heartland, and we know that Enugu is the heartland of Nigeria, looks at the question on how we can build a payment ecosystem that is not only seamless and secure, but radically inclusive, one that works just as effectively in Nigeria's communities and commercial hubs, as well as in communities in Enugu State here, where we are today. So it is my pleasure to moderate this conversation. And to do this with me would be Abimbola Rees. Abimbola, please make your way to the stage if you're in the room. Please, if I can have her come. I think she's probably still in the speaker's lounge if she's not here. So just a bit about Abimbola before she comes in. She's an enthusiast of payments, a business development, product innovation in the information and technology sector. And she has over 2 decades in financial technology and payment services. And she also comes with a wealth of experience in strategic business planning in financial technology business. Now, she's also a respected fintech and payments leader whose work sits at the intersection of technology, trust, and scale. And so that means that her experience is very versatile, and she offers critical insight into how digital payment platforms can bridge structural gaps, reduce cash dependency, and also unlock economic participation for underserved populations, especially vulnerable groups and people at the community level. So we're going to be having an in-depth conversation this morning to really look at what does inclusive financial opportunities mean, especially to communities. Also looking at driving financial inclusion and digital payments innovation for us first here in Enugu State. Now, when you hear financial inclusion, what comes to your mind? Let me start with some feedback. When you think of financial inclusion, what comes to your mind? Does anybody have an answer here? Can somebody go for it? Okay, I saw your hand up. When you think financial inclusion, what comes to your mind? Please, ma'am, can you sit here? Yes, thank you very much. So please put your hands together. She crept onto the stage without me knowing. She deserves an applause. So she just saved you from answering that question. So I'll take it back to her here on the stage. So thank you so much. It's good to have you this morning. And thank you for standing in short notice, but with the kind of expertise we've just read out your profile. I mean, we are very privileged to have you on this conversation. And I like that it's us girls, doing this morning. Yesterday, we saw a lot of the guys. So thinking and talking inclusion, I like that there's a woman that is talking fintech with me this morning. So thank you, Abimbola, for coming on the panel. So I'll first of all maybe start with what the basics are. So from cash to cold. Let's look at what do you see as the most significant barrier preventing everyday Nigerians, for instance. Now we're in Enugu. What do you think especially is the barrier for informal traders, small, medium enterprise, and of course, from fully adopting digital payments? What do you think those barriers have been, and if there are any at all?
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me. There are a couple of things, and they are being considered in our space for payment solutions for servicing the grassroots. The first thing is education. You would agree with me that you are afraid of what you don't know. A lot of people, if you do not understand something, the next best thing is to be afraid of it. And when you're afraid of something, you don't interact with it. So education is a major barrier. If they don't understand it, if you cannot relate to it, then it becomes a barrier for you to use it. Another barrier is simplicity of use. So you have very high-tech solutions being handed out to modern users, urban users, and then it's being handed out also to grassroots users, small businesses. You would find that it becomes difficult to interact with it because it's not as simplified as you would have it for those type of audiences or users. Another thing is breaking it down. That's just a subset of simplicity, is to the language barrier, the balance barrier that you see today. So there are a lot of businesses that are not as friendly to the kind of languages that you see today used on some of these platforms. And it is important that you make it very relatable, very easy to understand, so that you see applications coming in native languages, help FAQs being answered in native languages to make it easy for users to interact with. Then another thing is trust. So you have, when you're afraid of something, you don't trust it because you don't even interact with it. So the absence of trust is another barrier. And I've had an interaction in the marketplace sometime in the past, where I wanted to purchase something from someone, and she needed one of our wards to go and bring the item, and the ward was not available at that time. And then she found that she wanted to call the person on the phone, that the person was at where she was going to bring the item, and then it was going to be faster to reach her over the phone to actually ask her to add that item to what she was bringing. But then she didn't have airtime on her phone. So she had to send someone else to go and get airtime for her to be able to load on her phone. And then I was then telling her that, but you can purchase airtime from your phone. And then she laughed and told me, no, madam. The airtime that you people buy from the phone gets exhausted faster than the one that I scratched from the card. And I was surprised because there was no way that should be the case. So the trust level is not so good. So she didn't bother to interface or use that application. A lot has changed over the years now. We have seen some embrace of the usage of technology, but we need to do more. Those are the concerns, and those are the things that we have found from operating within this space, and that we are working to correct.
So I hear you say some of the barriers are education, simplicity of use, domestication of language, and trust. And, when you spoke about trust, it sort of just jolted me straight into my next question, because it's crafted around trust, security, and adoption. In a climate where you see growing cyber risk, I mean, you just gave a story about the call card experience. In a climate where you're seeing growing cyber risk and consumer skepticism, because that's also what this lady experienced, how can, payment providers build systems that are not only secure but trusted, not only at the urban level, but at the community suburban level?
It is important to be users, and then you're basing your security, your interface with what you expect from those type of customers. What we do at eTransact in building our product is we do a lot of research, and the research is focused on the user type that the solution is made for, so that an understanding of the challenges that they face or that they will face are being incorporated into what is being built for them. Another thing is machine learning, AI tools being used to understand patterns and behaviors that has been experienced in the past or are being experienced and is being learned as the users are interfacing with the platform. That helps to bring about fraud prevention. So it is not reactive, it's predictive, because we've seen it, maybe a pattern has established itself over a period and it leads to certain type of activities within the system, and then it's prevented from at the infrastructure level. So there is the understanding of what the customer needs, there is the understanding of what the system has gathered from the usage of the platform, and then I will come back to user education. At the end of the day, these risks that we see are not, they're usually socially engineered. So customers, users would let go of information that are supposed to be secured with them. And that is the first point of entry into their financial space. So that is also important to the extent that every person that is using any technology or any payment rail understands that the security starts with them first.
Okay, so just a follow-up question for what you said, talking about, research and user mapping. Now, when you're thinking about usage, you're thinking about different ecosystems. And so you're talking about students, you're talking about market women, you're talking about artisans, and then you're also talking about the educated. How do you often look at the research tools according to the ecosystems?
Can you say that again? I didn't get that.
When you're thinking about user mapping, you talked about research. How do you map? Because for different areas and different ecosystems, there's a level of knowledge. So for instance, we have students right here in this room, and some of them are already engaging in digital tools and already trading. You also have market women who may not have the level of education they have. You also have artisans who have no schooling at all. So how do you map what they need when you research?
So there is segmentation, just like you have done it. And that understanding builds the product design, the tools that are being sent into the marketplace, the product that these segments would use. There is also learning. I talked about machine learning. So every activity that is happening within the ecosystem is being understood by a system that says, okay, these are the sect of users that are interfacing with this product. It may be a completely new, an old product that they've interfaced with, and that learning is imported into new product that will be pushed into the market for different segments of users. It goes into as far as demography. So we have a product called Pocket Money today. Is it a digital app? It's a wallet app that is very young people forward. So you would see parlance, you see lingos that are understood by the younger demography. So sometimes I use the application, I see certain things, I'm like, okay, what does this mean? But because the focus is for a particular segment of users, then the language that is being used is different. Now, it also takes into consideration if I had added my age to the application on my onboarding process, I am sure that I probably would be seeing a different type of language. Mine will have commas and question marks. Those don't happen anymore as used to. Yeah, so those are the things that we consider in product development and releases that we give to users.
Okay, so I know that you have quite a decade of experience in financial technology and payment systems. And so it's very critical for us to bring this down, because here we are. This is the Tech Fest, the second year. And we have a lot of students who have also started to do digital financing, especially online with their trade. Now, let's look at inclusion beyond access. And what I mean by that is when a lot of people, I just asked before you came, what do they know about financial inclusion? When you hear inclusion, a lot of people just think, oh, it's about majority and minority groups, vulnerable groups. No one really thinks about, accessibility or community, engagement. So perhaps you may want to just give us a basic understanding first of what financial inclusion means from your financial technology experience and how this also, pertains to the students here in the room.
So I would like to categorize into three. We have the banked. That's the language we use. It doesn't mean that you have a bank account, but the banked, those are the users that are familiar with applications, payment rails, and the likes. They're already using it. They are familiar with it. Then we have the underbanked that are using it in piecemeals. They interface with these solutions or these payment rails in a different way. I would give an example. A market woman would have would be called an underbanked in this case, where she can access a POS agent. She's still driving a transaction through a payment ecosystem, but she's not directly involved. A third party is helping her to do that. A banked user, a banked customer, a banked person would have direct access to the usage of the payment rails. But in the case of a market woman that doesn't and is using an agent to complete a transaction, she's underbanked. Then we have the huge number of unbanked. They don't want to interface with payment rails. They don't want to interface with POS agents. They just want to run their activities and business on cash. So those are the three categories. Then there is the category that is not fully, that's the banks that are not fully experiencing the full scope of financial technology, financial services. So today they have a mobile application that can do funds transfer, do airtime, but they cannot do investments. They cannot do a lot of other services. So inclusion would be bringing those users that are even banked to do more, to bring the underbanked ecosystem. So that is the base understanding of financial inclusion, and creating tools and channels that makes it easy for them to migrate from one segment to the other. And that talks about simplicity and all that things that we talked about earlier.
Okay, so what would be the challenge for those who are not, for instance, banked? I ask this because when I'm thinking financial inclusion, I'm also thinking financial exclusion. So what happens to those excluded? What do they tend to miss?
I would say simplicity of life, speed and ability to use time for other things. Now, so if you have to go to the bank to get cash, and time is very valuable. You would expend time. There is also risk. Whether we like it or not, when you move around with your cash, you're exposed to the risk of whatever may happen in the course of transit. Then also, the the opportunity to grow is also very highly diminished, in the sense that you don't have footprints of your activities where you can present to a financial institution to say, this is the quantum of business I've done over 6 months and I would like to get a loan from you so that I can expand my business. So that also becomes a challenge for that business or for that person, even though the person may not readily know that those are the challenges that they are experiencing or that they would face, because they are not embedded or they are not included in the ecosystem. There's so many other things that they miss out because they are not in that space. But those are the very major ones that I can readily point to. for not being part of the ecosystem.
Okay. I mean, when we think about the Enugu Tech Fest, from when the conversation and planning till now that we've activated, this is day 2. We've seen that we have over 28,000 participants, that are engaging on this across Nigeria, even though it's happening in Enugu. Enugu's from diaspora, Enugu people from different parts of Nigeria and the world. And some of the conversations online that you also see, the question is, how do we invest in the population that is growing to be the new population of the new technology, builders? They ask the question, technology is building, but who's building technology? How do we manage? So when we're thinking investments, because it's something else that you're really passionate about, investments and partnership, where do you think that Enugu can look towards, especially with the young population they have and the ability to grow the digital literacy within the state? So what do you think?
There's a lot, actually. I think this event in itself is very impressive. The numbers is outstanding, and I believe that the turnout would continuously improve and get better. I think the platform will also serve as a point where education is being transmitted much more easily. We have the audience here listening in and even online. That is also investment. When you have people as part of your process, you have built a community that is invested in what you're building. That is the first leg of investment. Now, talking about partnerships, we have, as eTransact, we are vested in technology first. So we are a payments solution provider licensed by CBN, but we also pride ourselves as a technology company because technology is what we're using to build the rails that we are building for payment. And we believe that, we believe in innovation, we believe in co-creation, and that is why we are here. So we are looking towards hearing more from Enugu. What are you planning to do? How can we play in that space? How can we bring our wealth of experience to say, this is what we have noticed over 25 years, over 20 years of operations in Nigeria and some other part of Nigeria, part of Africa. And these are the things that we should be looking towards building for Enugu to expand the scope of the investments that we have. And from the diaspora as well, we could talk about enabling payments for people in diaspora to also engage the solutions and the services that is being churned out of this laudable initiative, wherein where they can also easily exchange for money, pay, and do all of those obligations without having to worry about how transmission will be done. So enabling them will also be part of the investment that we're looking at. But most importantly is co-creation and execution. So that is what we are looking at. And then financing. Financing is part of it. At the end of the day, to execute, you need finance. But then if you have usage, it builds the baseline for the financing to be easy. And when you know that when you produce it, when you build it, they will come. So, yeah, that's the way we're looking at it.
Okay, so my closing question would be a call to action. What would be your call to action for advancing financial inclusion in Enugu State? Because I hear you say a lot about it. And one thing that keeps coming to me is the area of user education. How can they expand that? Considering there's a lot of interest, but little literacy, what can be done in that regard?
I think literacy is a matter of you and I and everybody that is represented here. So you interface regularly. That's at the lowest level, I would say. You interface, your circle of influence is the point of literacy. That's where the literacy should start. And that is what one of the things I do personally, to say, when I interface with a user that I know probably does not understand what it means, I take it upon myself to say, this is this, and this is what you can learn. Do you have a son that can run you through this? Madam, let me send something to you. Let him look at it and let him talk more about it. So we have that, and it's a commitment that I have taken on, and I think everyone here should take on board, because when you are not financially included, when you are not in the ecosystem, I mentioned the opportunities that are lost. So everyone here, especially students, parents and communities, listen more. to students because they feel they just know these things more than we do. That's the thinking. And so we take it upon ourselves. Then I am very, very happy with what Enugu is doing. It's a platform that will change the narrative over time. You know, when I was coming in, I was wowed by how everything was put together, and it is a platform that will teach and that would help with literacy. And I think state government should also embrace this at the federal level. With the central bank, there is a lot of initiative, a lot of push for financial inclusion. But, you know, for it to trickle down further, the states will have to embrace it just like Enugu has done. Then it should trickle down even further to the local government levels and to individuals as we have here. And then it becomes easier. And then the mode of communication should be simplified more and more so that it becomes, you know, relatable and embraceable by this sect of users that we hope to bring on board.
Thank you so much. Please, she deserves an applause. She deserves an applause. And one thing I hear you say, your circle of influence is where your literacy begins. And so start from there. So I don't know if anybody has any question. I just have one, because I see the compare slowly walking towards me, and that's my time is up. But if I can have one question of feedback from any member of the audience.
Any questions? Well then, if there are no questions, can we
so
have
it means that we are
applause?
absolutely engaging the conversation. So maybe food for thought for you to perhaps step down this conversation. One of the things I also hear is user education. So ask questions. You can meet her on the sideline and ask her questions and engage. I'm sure she'll be willing to interact with you. Thank you so much, Mr. Bimbala.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
great
you,
to have
everyone,
you on
for
this
listening.
panel.
Thank
That
you.
will be it for us. And thank you for being a quiet yet engaging audience without your voice echoed. My name is Adora. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Adora, and thank you to the guests too. We'll move straight to the next fireside chat. For this one, we are taking a look at building scalable digital products from Africa. So I would like to call up to moderate this particular fireside chat, Ifedeli Onyebu. Can we have Ifedeli Onyebu on stage, please? Is Ifedeli here? Great. Put your hands together for him, please. All right, so joining him for the fireside chat is a tech founder of the ecosystem build, Ugochukwu Arono. I'm sure you know him very well. He was here last year, by the way. Give him a rousing applause. Keep clapping, please.
All right. Good everyone. How you guys doing? Hello. Okay, nice. So we're just going to get straight into it. I'm going to introduce myself first, and then he goes next, and start the whole stuff. My name is Ifedili Onyebu, and I'm a CTO at Soundrig, and I'm a software developer at the best. And here we have.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, I'm Ugochukwu Arono, and I'm an engineer. I think I'll just start with that. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that. So today we are going to be talking about building scalable digital digital products from Africa. And so we are going to be talking around innovation, infrastructure, and ecosystem. And I think we have the best person to talk about this as far as the Southeast is involved. And just before we start, Ugo, I'm a very big fan of your work. I feel like the work you've done here was one of the reasons why a lot of people like me got into Web3 in the first place, because I got to meet people that worked at your company, and I got to, I got exposed to stuff that people are doing at scale. So I just want to mention that. So now, what does it take to build digital products in Africa that scales globally? What does it take?
Okay, so first, when it comes to building digital products, there's something I like to say to anybody at all. And these are things I learned over the years. When you want to create anything, whether it's a digital product or, whatever it is, you need to try as much as possible to understand that problem from ground up. That's from the first principles. You may not be able to understand everything from day one, but you need to make conscious effort to understand it from first principles, from ground up. And I've faced challenges over the years, trying to just build things at a superficial level or at a high level. And eventually you realize that you don't have control. And when you don't have control, that product is as good as dead, because any other person or a bigger company or something can just take over that business, and all your work is gone. So I like to start from that approach when building any product. So in this case, digital products. Why? Because I think someone yesterday spoke about infrastructure, spoke about algorithms. That was Gossi, from Kingmakers. And one thing we need to understand when you want to build products at scale, because it asks digital products at scale, the truth is you need to be able to understand what that product does, and you need to be able to know how to control the product from, bare metal. If I'm allowed to speak as maybe an electronics engineer, a computer engineer, right? So that's number one thing. And secondly, even if you're not a technical person, you need to find a technical person that you can trust and work with in building this product. Because the world is evolving, and as the world evolves, it's actually very difficult for you not to have some form of, should I say, technical inclination if you're creating any digital product. Now, people can wake up, write prompts on an AI tool, and that AI tool will generate a product, right? So you realize that because some people have this mindset that, okay, I don't have to be technical. I'm a business person. I get a technical person to do the work. I don't need to pay attention to the actual work. That's not true. Now, there's a sort of thin line between, business and technical founders, because at this point, anybody can be technical. You can just write prompts, like I said, and AI tools will generate it. But it doesn't mean that the product will sell that much, but it just shows that you can learn to be technical or to understand the technical part of the digital product you're building. So I think I'll just end with this. At the foundation of building any digital product is understanding it from first principles, from ground up. I think maybe towards the end of the session, I will give a live example, an experience I had, and why I encourage founders or builders to go that approach. It is very difficult, but I think long term, you reap the benefits, and you wish you actually took that harder path. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. What you said now just reminded me of a quote from Mark Zuckerberg, when he said, ideas don't come fully formed. You start it and then you figure it out along the way. Thank you for that. So you mentioned something about having some technical skills. So I would like to know, beyond this technical part of it, what else you need to sustain skill at that global level?
Okay, to sustain skill, that's a tricky question because at this point, even at my position, we're still figuring out ways to sustain skill, right? But yeah, I think it's also good. So first thing is finding the fastest ways or things that never worked. And you don't have to be emotional about it, right? And I also try to distill this into the Nigerian, Enugu or Nigerian context. Because the kinds of things you would see here or the way you would sustain products here isn't the same way you would sustain products in the United States or in Europe or in Asia, because we have our own, nuances and all that. So looking at the context here, you need to check what are the things that you have failed at, right? What are the resources maybe you don't have access to? Because for you to get to a particular level, most people think that you need a crazy amount of funding. You may need, to raise hundreds of millions of dollars for you to achieve skill. That's not correct. And also, most people will think that you need a lot of money to sustain it. That's actually not correct. There's a lot of money or capital to burn. To sustain skill, you need to make sure you manage your resources very well. You need to say more no's than yeses. And that also goes with, by resources, I mean time, your time as a founder, as an engineer, and also the money you spend. You need to be much more frugal at that stage. You may have $100 million in your bank account, but you need to be careful how you spend $1. Because at scale, one mistake can, move at, orders of magnitude exponentially, and it can wipe out your entire capital. And that's the problem. I don't know if you guys might know about this saying, the bigger you get, the harder you fall. And that's true. And that's the same thing with gravity. If I'm suspended at that height, and I'm suspended at maybe just this height here, if I fall from here, I'll probably not have any injuries. But from there, you're gone. And that's the same way you can liken skill, in your business and sustaining it to, the business going under. So it's easier for you to even hit ground zero at certain high points. So when you try to sustain skill, make sure you manage your resources properly. You say more no's than yeses. You try to focus on what has been working for you. That's probably why when you see some companies when they grow big, they don't try too many new things. And because at times, when we started off, I used to say, oh, these guys, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? At this point, I'm beginning to understand why. Because trying out a new thing means putting a lot of resources into it, putting a lot of time. And if that thing doesn't work, it creates, a negative effect. And for smaller companies, you can try out things. But as you grow, you can't really try out too many things. That's why it's even easier for large companies to buy out smaller companies that have succeeded in those things. It's easier for them to spend the money, right? Maybe they just spend $20, $30 million. If it goes bust, that's fine. But if they were to start doing the research and everything thoroughly, they will probably spend hundreds of billions of dollars. So at that level, you need to manage your time, resources, and, pick your battles, so to speak. Yeah.
So it just boils down to resource management. Okay. That's amazing. In case people have something that you're trying and you don't have time to do, I have time. All right, so let's take it back. So now we're talking about building skill. Let's take it back to like the foundation, to people that are still getting into this space. We have this culture of people always building in isolation. It's very common with African builders. So how can we create like a system to what's the mindset, what's the system that we need to create around the building culture so that people know that you can't do it alone. You have to leverage on ecosystem.
Okay, so I may share a different approach, maybe not what a lot of people will think. Yes, people build in private. I also see people who build in public. I won't say there's a best approach, right? I'll be very honest. I've never really been someone who built anything like that in public from when I started. It's probably when the business had gotten to a certain point, then, you can put it out there and people can use it, but not necessarily say maybe this is. I see people document their building, the process. Maybe they say day 1, day 2, so the world can hold them accountable. That's probably fine. Or I think there are certain types of things you'll be working on, and you may not need anybody's validation. And personally, one thing I always would want to encourage founders to do is because nowadays everything is online, and most people would rather have that media validation than actually building something that truly works. I see it every day, right? And it makes no sense. So going back to for founders in this region, if you have a very interesting project or something you're building, I would recommend that you build it. When it gets to a certain point where you can reach out to people to try it out, then they try it out. There are things I've built that died or that didn't work. A couple of people didn't know about it. Some people knew about it, but I just had to close the chapter on that and moved on, right? But the most important thing is making sure that whatever you're building, that within yourself, you're convinced that you're doing the right thing. You don't need to allow someone else to tell you, okay, this is the right thing or this is not the right thing. And like I said, I've seen it a lot on, social media, Twitter, and all these platforms. So I would recommend that if you're building something in private, go on. If you're building in public and you think that that's what works best for you, go on. But when you have too many ideas at very early stages, too many people telling you this, people who probably who have no idea what you're doing, it also affects people emotionally, people who don't have that strong mental model to withstand whatever people say. They will just break down or they will cave in a very short period of time. So in that case, it would be better to sort of isolate yourself, not in the word of, not in the sense of, not talking to people, but it's better to focus and build that thing, get it to a point where you can now maybe tell people about it, and then they also start to do it. And then I think isolation, there's this guy, I may not have the entire quote, I may just paraphrase. I don't know how many of you know about Charles Bukowski. He's a poet, a very brilliant person, and he says, isolation is a gift. And in all honesty, I think isolation is a gift. If you're able to do things on your own or with a few people, work on very hard problems, build complex systems, or solve, very, very difficult problems without having any external person encouraging you, telling you you're doing well, I think you build a certain type of mindset that allows you to do anything. It creates discipline. And that's the biggest problem a lot of people have. A lot of people have this idea. It's easy to inspire people here at this event. I said it last year, and I've said it at a couple of events. You can come and hear nice people, or people say so many nice things, and you're pumped or encouraged for 24 hours. The problem is, what do you do the next day? And the day after that, and the day after that, when things are not working, what do you do? So at that point, isolation helps to create character. And I think for me, if I'm to lean to anything, I would say, look, build your stuff, create that mental model where you can withstand anything. Then if you come out and people are saying things, no problem. You just keep at it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I want to add what you just said. Ask rather. So you said there's no right way, and I think I agree to that to some point, but I also think that people do it to leverage on community because they don't have like foundation. People like Anthropic, they don't tell you we are working on, you just see it. So you just go and they drop something and you won't see them saying day one, day two, and all that. And I feel like it's because they've gotten to a point where they have like solid foundation and they can afford to build in silence and just show the public. And if they feel they can afford to go back and redo it again. So yeah, I think that makes sense. All right. So so the next question: How should African founders think about regulation and compliance when scaling across borders?
Okay. Well, African founders, how they should think about regulation, compliance. All right. So I think first is it depends on the industry you're playing in. When we look at finance, for example, finance is heavily regulated in Nigeria, in Africa, right? Just like crypto. Now we've seen the new tax bill, crypto was included, and people are chasing the money because, people, once you follow the money, you will have a good chance of getting some back. So the regulatory bodies are very interested in finance. But I think finance is good, but it's just a minuscule part of the contribution that great minds sitting here can actually make to science and technology, right? And there are certain areas of science and technology that have almost zero regulation. And in fact, it's the scientists or the researchers or the builders or the founders that will be able to speak to the regulators and drive the direction that that particular industry should follow. And if you leave me, that's what I will encourage everybody to do. I heard like the e-transact lady speak about e-transact. These guys have been there for older than a lot of people sitting here, right? Finance is so old. And I think that even the new part of finance, which is crypto or Web3, is interesting, right? But there are other things or other industries that are not heavily regulated that people can play in. And I will encourage them to do that. So you shouldn't worry about regulation. I think it doesn't make sense. It stifles or thwarts your thinking ability when you start to think about regulation. I'll use my company as an example. One of them, Ycrypt, when we started building things and breaking into routers, access points, trying to understand how the systems worked, breaking into their operating systems and all those things, and just hacking the systems to get a full picture because of the challenge we faced at some point with our mobile app. At that point, I didn't care about regulation. I was like, to hell with whoever is. In fact, it didn't even cross my mind. And then, when we have achieved a certain level of success, guess what? Nigeria Communications Commission called us for an event, and we were one of the winners there. And from there, we went to Saudi Arabia, and we were number one in the world. And kudos to the Nigerian government and to the Nigeria Communications Commission, because if they had come to us then and they said, oh, this thing you're doing, it's not legal, or who gave you the license to do this, it would have destroyed the company. But now, the company is thriving, right? So that's the thing. You don't think about regulation, and you also try as much as possible when you interact with the regulatory body or the people who are now supposed to regulate, you try to defend your product and show them why this approach should work and why the regulation should now be done according to, like your technology sort of. So you define it. So that's how I'll encourage African builders. And it's easier for us to do it here. If you go to a place like the United States, even setting up a bank, okay, I'll give you an example. In America, all the 50 states, if you're going to set up your bank, you need to get your license in all 50 states. It's ridiculous. Same thing with, because last year they were doing SEC in the US, they were doing a road show, teaching people about crypto, telling people to register their crypto companies. But guess what? You would have to still get your license in all 50 states of the United States. And that goes for so many things. These are advanced economies. You don't even want to go to Asia. As an African, it won't be very easy for you to get licenses to operate. But here, the foundation, things are still raw. The land is fallow. So you have the opportunity to break that ground and define how rules and regulations would work. So you bend it to your will. And for me, that's the reason why this is the best place to build, right? As Nigerians, as Africans, it's actually the best place because you're the one that will make the laws over time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very nice perspective to think about it. Okay. So we'd like to know what common mistake. I think what you just mentioned now is just like one mistake people make, thinking about compliance too much. So what other common mistakes do people make when they are trying to scale beyond Africa globally?
Okay, mistakes people make when they are trying to scale.
Yeah, mistakes that limit scalability.
Okay, when they are scaling. Okay, yeah. Beyond Africa. Okay, honestly, one thing I would say about scaling is when you get your product to a certain point, you would realize that maybe you don't really have a money problem. The problem you may have for you to achieve scale is a distribution problem, right? You can create a very good product, but then if you cannot get it to, let's say, a couple of million people, then the product cannot really make you money or it can't have impact. So at that point, partnerships are very important. And that's why building products or building companies that you can sell or, use to offer services to larger companies is a very important thing. I'll give you an example. I won't be able to mention publicly, but okay, let me use MTN just acquired, I think IHS, the guys that have the masts or, the towers, the cell towers. If you look at that acquisition, it cost them about $6 billion in cash. What does it tell you? MTN is liquid. I don't know companies that will bring out $6 billion in cash in Nigeria to buy another company. So it shows that they are liquid. Now, you can ask yourself, what are the things that a company like MTN or Airtel or Glo, people who watch soccer here, I watch soccer, right? I'm a Manchester United fan, by the way. So, people who watch soccer here, I'm sure when you're seeing the ads, you see MTN saying they have 85 million customers, right? That's 85 million people. Imagine if your product is something that MTN can plug into, and that product can get to, even if it's just 10% of those customers on a monthly basis, that's 8.5 million people. And what you're pretty much doing is sitting down and counting your money every day. That is a form of scale. A lot of people don't see that. So you can look at companies like MTN, Glo, Airtel, and ask yourself, what problems do these people have that you can solve? If you guys go to places like Lagos, often, you would see that when you go to some of these companies, you will see more of the Chinese people there than our people, right? Why? Because these guys fly from China. Anytime I'm coming into Nigeria for anything, although I live here in Enugu, don't get me wrong, so I just travel for business. Anytime I'm coming into Nigeria, you're seeing, the Chinese, other Asians, people who may not even be able to speak English. And they are coming in, going to those companies, going to some oil companies, going to these guys to provide services to them. And when you look at some of the core services they provide, those things are companies actually that they have built, and then they take it, they tell them, I can offer you this solution. But, around here, most people, most founders don't have that idea that, look, you have companies that can allow you to scale just next door, but you're not leveraging them, right? Another thing is the government. So Nigeria has this, I think, Nigerian Content Management Development Board, people that deal with, local content. It was just yesterday, I was having dinner with one of the, one of the speakers, and he was even telling me about the financial space, that it was those guys that allowed, banks have this thing they call the core banking software. Initially, all those services used to be provided by people from the US or Indians, right? But the content management guys now said no. If Nigerians can build it, use Nigerians. And guess what? Guys like MoneyPoint build this stuff. People, all the banks in Nigeria now, their core banking systems are pretty much built by Nigerians. That is a form of skill that people don't see. So it's something I encourage founders to do here. Look at companies around you. You can build solutions to target their hardest problems. And even if that problem is being solved by someone from US or China or anywhere, as long as your solution can solve that problem, you can call on, I think it's Executive Order 003 or whatever on local content, and you will trigger that law, and they will buy from you. And that way, you can just create a small device or a small machine solving something, and you sit down and you count a lot of money. And when you have that kind of partnership, you can just go and raise, even if you still want to raise more money, you can now talk to investors, and they see that agreement, they see the partnership, and they write you checks if you want to scale much more. So that's the idea of skill I would use here. In other countries, it might be different, but for here, I think that's what I would do. Thank you.
Amazing. That's nice. All right, so last question, and this is going to be like for you. So we'd like to know from your journey so far, building and scaling all these years, what lessons have you learned that you want to share to?
When you make some money, then ideas start coming. Maybe you need to hire this expert. This guy is an expert in financial security, financial technology. He's an expert in business. She's an expert in this. And they will come, they will provide spreadsheets, dashboards, and tell you this is how to. I'm a growth expert. I don't want to use any obscene word here, but the truth is that it makes no sense for founders to go and hire, in quotes, experts, especially at early stages of your business. I would encourage you, if you don't have, in quotes, an expert. For example, I'm not an accountant, but initially when we started, I used to do my accounting. And then I now got a CFO who also joined as a partner in the business. If you need some experts, you need to be sure that those people are able to walk that walk with you. Most experts will just come and tell you, oh, my salary, you're in Nigeria, and the guy is telling you my salary is $2,500 a month. And he's Nigerian like you, right? I tell you my salary is $2,000, and you're like, how much are we even making? But because he came maybe highly recommended from somebody, and he has a very big portfolio, that's total rubbish. Always work with people, one, who may be close to your age. Two, people who have that vision. Then another thing, don't overhire people. I made that mistake at some point, and then at some point I had to, cut. And you would see that you would hire too many people, they are sitting down and they're not doing anything. I don't know how many of you watched this series. I was in uni those days. What's the name? The startup guys, Richard Hendricks, and Silicon Valley. Yeah. I don't know how many people watch Silicon Valley. You would see, I think there's a company they were trying to use to mimic Google. I think it's Hoodoo or whatever. And they had staff earning millions of dollars. They don't do anything in the office. It happened with Meta. Even now, a lot of people still are over-bloated. As a company or as a startup, try to be as lean as possible. Even if you're going to hire some people, hire them on contract and let them prove their mettle before you give them permanent employment. I know a lot of people here might think, oh, maybe you're saying this, how will people get jobs? Look, the world out there is tough. It's going to eat you and spit you out. No sentiment. So people need to get that. So if you're building your business, you need to be sure that you protect your capital, you protect your time. You don't overhire, you don't overpay people. And if your business is having problems, you tell them on time that, look, I can't pay you. I had that problem during COVID. People that we used to pay like maybe 500,000 naira or thereabout, I dropped their salary to 20, 30,000 because all the business, everything was pretty much shut down. And I told them, look, I can't pay. But even if you want to do remote job, I can help you write some of the code. And honestly, it worked. And majority of the people who believed in what we were doing, they stayed back and they are dead till now. What I'm trying to say is you need to be practical. And the last thing I would like to tell founders is we're in Nigeria. This whole idea of saying my startup shut down is a ridiculous thing. It makes absolutely no sense. If somebody in the US says that their startup shut down, investors will probably be like, okay, no problem. They have a lot of risk capital. They can deploy $5 million, $10 million, and write it off. Somebody here will not deploy $50,000 and write it off. The person can come to your house in the morning and ask you for his money and start throwing punches. Yeah, you need to understand your environment. So it's important for founders, even if that business idea isn't working, you can shelve it. People at early stages invest in people, not really products. So if someone is coming to invest in your company at an early stage, they've probably seen you. They know that this guy, even if this product fails, he will keep going. But that idea of, this company has shut down and all the investors' money there, you kiss it goodbye. It does more damage to our ecosystem, right, than so many other things. Because most people will be like, the country itself is not in a very wonderful state. So if people are taking bets or making bets on you, you need to look at how you can protect that capital. I'm not trying to tell people to gamble, but there's this guy, I think he's, was it FedEx, that his company ran out of money and he took like $20,000, the remaining money, and went to Las Vegas to gamble. I don't know how many of you heard that story, right? I can't validate it. I wasn't with him, but let's assume that is what he did. What does it show you? It shows you that you can do whatever it takes for your business to survive. And we are already in a capitalist economy or system. So it means that you need to do what it takes for your business to survive. And it's very easy for people to sit down maybe in certain positions and judge others at very high positions. But one thing I can tell you is, if you don't really understand something, I think it's better to try and listen to what people in that position have been through. Because when you get there, you realize that you're not pretty much any different from a couple of others. But at the end of the day, please protect your capital. Don't overhire people. Don't hire experts. Work more with people your age, at least within your company. And as much as possible, no matter how difficult you think it will be, don't let your company die. It is ridiculous. And for someone like me, I've invested in people who said, this company died. It pissed me off, but I can tell you, it makes absolutely no sense. Looking at maybe I'm pissing some people off. But yeah. So please don't let your company die. It makes no sense. Nobody is going to tolerate that kind of thing from here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, we are done. I don't know if one more question. All right.
Please let's celebrate them once again for that insightful speech. Thank you so much, Ugochukwu Arono. He says, don't overhire people, especially if you are starting out. Work more with people your age. A word they say, is enough for the wise. Please let's celebrate Ugochukwu Arono once again. Thank you so much. All right, to have the next fireside chat, which is titled Code is Cheap, but Engineering is Hard. Survival Lessons for the New Founder. This will be handled by Mary Chukwu Anosike, the head of sponsorships and partnerships at Enugu Tech Fest. Please put your hands together for Mary Chukwu Anosike. Okay, he's not available at the moment. Please, can someone fetch him wherever he is at? All right. While Mary Chukwu is getting ready for his session on code is cheap and but engineering is hard, I'd like to remind us that yesterday was about policy, governance, and vision. His Excellency Governor Peter Mba set the tone boldly by saying the true essence or the true resource of Enugu is not what lies beneath the ground, it is what lies within its people. He reminded us that the real constraint is no longer access, it is imagination and the courage to act. Yesterday was about foundation, structure, and intent in action. But today, we move from policy to people. That is why today is about talent, startups, and investment. So we're talking to you about how to invest, how to go about it, the people you need while you're starting out, and how to go about it. Mary Chukwu is here. So please put your hands together for him as he comes on stage to introduce the next fireside chat segment on code is cheap, but engineering is hard. Please celebrate him one more time. Thank you.
Hi, so sorry. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. How are we doing today? How are we feeling? Huh? Cold. Why? Okay, so I would like to welcome my guest speaker who will be joining me on stage in a moment. Give me a minute, please. Okay, I'd like to welcome James. Please, can we give a big round of applause to Mr. James as he comes on stage? So we'll be taking today, right? Give me a minute, sorry. Hi, Mr. James, good afternoon. So, this is code to core, right? And today's topic is code is cheap, but engineering is hard. Survival lessons for the new frontier. Who here is familiar with code? Any developers in the house? Can you guys say hi? Can you guys say hi? Drop some energy for James on stage. Say hi. All right. So let's go. So as code is cheap, right? What do you think is the most dangerous mindset for startups as they are writing large databases, consuming large data sets and whatnot?
Yeah, I think it's mostly scalability, because some of the time when we start off, we're trying to move as fast as possible. We're trying to gain customers. We're trying to make as much money as possible. I mean, I get it, right? It's natural instinct to want to do that. But then eventually, when we try to maybe transition from what we currently offer to offer new services or new features, we would find out that the old way of doing things does not work. And we find out that the foundation that we laid that should have taken us to where we wanted to go has now become faulty, such that going forward is not as easy as we had envisaged. We would now have to rewrite or redesign everything that we previously did, and that's one problem that most modern companies have now, where they don't start off intentional. I feel like they start off from a place of wanting to solve a problem. They don't really think about the architecture. They don't really think about the foundations. And so when they start off, they try to like lay the wrong foundations, and then that eventually gets to the point where it bites them. With my primary, secondary school, university, university was basically in Enugu. I started off my career in Lagos as a software engineer. That was basically when I was trying to like figure out PHP and JavaScript and all of that stuff. But then eventually got to work on a couple of systems. I had very good mentors, learned from them growing up, and then eventually found a couple of remote jobs. And then from remote jobs, I eventually...
No, that's this thing. So one thing I want everyone in the audience is to know that James is like you, right? He's not someone from the stratosphere, but is someone that has what? Passed through the rigor, passed through the time, has actually put in the work, right? And to tell you that there are opportunities and there are a lot of awesome things that is possible. But again, like, you know, like the era of AI has come and the era of a lot of things have come. But like AI aside, the noise aside, what really separates a good coder from a good engineer or from a great engineer? What really separates the both? Are we just going to vibe Nigeria all on AI, or like what are we actually going to build? Are we going to build infrastructure, real tech, real applications that impact human lives? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think people that develop products that eventually scale, who are in this particular case termed the good engineers, are people who are, like I said, intentional from the very get-go. There are people who don't technically build for the happy path. So there's a happy path, there's like the normal path, and then there's a pessimistic path. So the happy path is where you have, say for example, a button. When the button is clicked, you'd expect the user to be able to like log in. But then real users are chaotic. Real users don't follow that happy path technically. Real users would click a button, and then while it's loading, click it again and click it again. Real users would see an input box that says first name and still go and put Chief Doctor Oluwafemi, whatever it is, right? They don't particularly stick to those constraints that you've put, right? So I think good engineers are people who factor those things in. Good engineers are people who don't just develop for the happy path. They are people who consider that there's going to be a happy path, but then there's also going to be a pessimistic path, and are able to kind of reconcile those so that their products are able to satisfy both scenarios. Right?
Okay.
So that's one thing. Then if I was going to say another thing, it would be engineers who are also intentional about scale. I mean, I get it. We're building to be able to solve problems. We're building to be able to reach users. We're building to be able to make money and stuff. And so we might start off small eventually, right? So we have a database that is able to like accommodate 10 users, 20 users and everything. But then the more users you have, the more your system starts collapsing. I think real engineers that are intentional, are people who are able to factor in scalability at the very foundational levels instead of as an afterthought, right? So, well, it works now. There's no need to be able to like boost that up. I mean, I'm not saying boost that up at the beginning. I'm just saying it is a way that you can factor it in. Know that at some point you're going to want to scale. You're going to want to include other features into your offering, and then basically factor for that. So when you're developing, you're asking yourself, can I revert this thing in the next 6 to 12 months? Is this thing possible for me to be able to augment or change in the next 6 to 12 months? And if the answer is no, then you probably have a lot of work to do. But then if the answer is yes, then you're probably on the right path.
Okay, I really love that. In the words of Ugochukwu Arono, who is a first principle builder, you say like there are steps. You don't just jump when you're building technology, right? You have to ensure that your technology has to be scalable, do a lot of planning, and again, what he's currently defining is design thinking, right? You have to design your system. You don't just get on your system, write code, and it just goes like that, right? You have to ensure that your code actually considers the end users, right? The end users, the end reactions, how all of these things interact. But let's do something for the AI boys. AI boys in the house, say hi. AI boys in the house, say hi. Okay, so like, you know that AI has changed a lot of ways we interact with code, build products. But like, how do you see that even with the change, these products people are building actually secure and sustainable?
I think so. Based off of my experience with AI, it's mostly being able to generate code or starter code for you to be able to like bootstrap your app, start it up, and then get to a point. I think that's good in terms of helping you like start off. It kind of saves you a lot of time when you're like bootstrapping your app, when you're trying to start up. But then it shouldn't be a substitute for like security and sustainability, right? I think these are things that you still have to factor in. So AI can be like that big brother that helps you start up. It can be that helper that kind of sees you through some very rudimentary things that you probably would have found more like a toil to be able to do. But then that's not where it stops. And the sad truth is that that's where most of the developers stop, right? Once AI says it's this, they basically just go along with it, and then that's it. But then AI should be a tool that we incorporate in our arsenal to help us or save us time or make us more efficient. But then it shouldn't take the place of like those rudimentary security practices in software engineering. I feel like if we're able to combine those, like the bootstrapping of the applications that AI helps us to do, and then still kind of go back to base with the security bits, with the data protection bits, with the sustainability bits, I believe that we'll be building something very scalable and that will be able to solve problems, or real life problems.
Okay, so that's amazing. So if you're not just you're telling us that people shouldn't just go vibe code their whole project and put it out on the App Store, right? Because then they might be giving away their whole database as an API endpoint, right? So one thing, like, because we have talked about code, talked about a bit of startups, but like now, is a rat race out there. Whether you're using code to scale, whether you're not using code to scale, how do you think Nigerian startups can utilize AI, code, all these technologies to actually scale and compete at a global level?
That's a good question. I think so. We have quite peculiar constraints in Nigeria, given that we are a developing country. For example, like in Europe, in North America, they have more established systems that help with some of these things. Like you have better infrastructure, you have power supply, you have some of these things at your disposal. I think some of these things are not quite or easily obtainable in Nigeria. My advice for Nigerian startups and developers would be to embrace these constraints. Some people argue that constraints are good depending on how you frame it. So if you see constraints as a bad thing, well, I don't have light, I don't have electricity, I don't have internet, how am I able to do these things that I really want to do? Well, you might be right. You are right because that's your reality. But then it doesn't really solve any problem. I think the people that actually make it are people who are able to embrace that constraint and use it as a tool in their arsenal. I came back and I saw how OPay operates. OPay, Money Points, this very fast transfer. I think I spoke to a driver and he said that if you have not seen the alert on your phone using OPay, it means that the person has not sent it. That was basically what, and he said that with 100% assuredness, because OPay has been able to embrace that constraint that is particular to Nigerians and then use it to their benefit, right? They didn't go ahead complaining, well, there should be contactless, there should be all these very fancy things that you can see in the Western world. They were able to look at the very peculiar problems that Nigeria had and then use those, streamline those to be able to come out with a very useful tool that now is solving many people's problems. I don't know any merchant that is not using either OPay or Money Points.
So that's amazing. So our time is out. Okay. So I would just like to ask you, is there anything you'd like to tell the future builders as we go off stage? The future builders as we go off stage right now.
I think if there was one thing I would say, there are no shortcuts to this. I feel many people are looking for the very easy way out. They're looking for, how am I able to scale my company in the next 2 years and stuff. I'm not saying that's not possible. I'm just saying that shouldn't be the goal. I think the goal should basically be trying to look for a problem and solving that problem to the best of your ability, to the point where users are able to identify you as the problem solver for that particular problem. That's your niche. That's your base, right? So stay the entire process. It might be a bit hard. I mean, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer here, but then that's the reality, right? Stay the process. It might be a bit hard, but then if your focus is solving a real problem, real user problems, I believe that it's just a matter of time before everything comes together. Yeah.
So that's amazing. That's time. Please, can we give him a big round of applause as we step off the stage? So this is James Olidia. So if you're available later, you can come connect to him. He's an experienced software developer in the space. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please put your hands together once again for Mary Chukwu and James. James' word to each and every one of us, founder or not, is that you should be a problem solver. In a world where people are always looking for the get-rich-quick scheme or the next thing that will make them blow overnight, James' word is simple and short. Be a problem solver. Look for real problems in your environment and solve them. That way, you are more meaningful in that thing that you're doing. Please put your hands together again for James. Thank you so much. Thank you. And moving really fast, we have a panel discussion next. It's about, the topic says, can tech hubs do it alone? Excuse me. All right, thank you. The next is a panel discussion, and the topic is, can tech hubs do it alone? Rethinking human capital development at national scale. This would be handled by Chioma Yvonne Aninwe, who is a seasoned communications strategist with over 14 years of experience driving brand trust and stakeholder engagement across corporate, nonprofit, and development sectors. As founder and chief strategy officer at Engage PR, she leads campaigns on national priorities from power reforms to digital inclusion and sustainable transport. Please let us welcome Chioma Yvonne Aninwe. Please put your hands together for her as she walks on stage. Keep clapping till she comes over and takes the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Did I do something wrong? Good afternoon, everyone. Enugu, good afternoon. Once again, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to just quickly ask a question. If the universities were shut down for 5 years, do you think that we will innovate faster? Do you think that we will grow faster tech-wise? Hold that thought. Hold it. My second question would be, if the tech hubs disappeared tomorrow, do you think that Nigeria's digital talent would disappear? Still hold it. Because I'm going to bring very fine gentlemen in the room who would discuss, can tech hubs do it alone? Do you think tech hubs can do it alone? Those are the questions that will be answered by very seasoned gentlemen in the room. I'd like to quickly call to have this okay, so while I wait for the very intelligent, smart gentleman that will be joining me, we started a conversation. I said, if schools were shut down, if universities were shut for 5 years, do you think that we'll become more innovative in Nigeria? Did I hear someone say yes or no? Don't let the VCs hear you. I hope they're not in the room. And don't let the lecturers go home. All right. Joining me on stage to discuss, can tech do it alone? Distinguished guests, tech enthusiasts, please welcome Jerry Uke as he joins me. Director of Learning, Rise Vest Academy. Joining him, please let's keep clapping, let's encourage him. Thank you very much. Joining him is Iene Ibe, Director of Learning Programs at Genesis Tech Hub. I'd like to respectfully call Chuks Edoga to join us. CEO Digital Dreams. Is Chuks here? I've been looking forward to meeting you, Chuks. since yesterday. And our very own Eliezer Aja. There is no one in this room who has not seen him since yesterday. Head of Job Creation, 3MTT. Eliezer Aja, please join us. Thank you very much. How about, let's clap for them now, please. And when I started, I said, very fine, seasoned gentlemen. And for once, I'm glad that I'm blessed among gentlemen. Please, if we have women in the room, let's clap for ourselves. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I would normally not like to introduce anybody because I think that nobody would introduce you better than yourself. So let's give it a go in 30 seconds. Who are you, Jerry?
My name is Jerry. I do product and programs. I run learning programs for young people who want to build careers in tech. I am also a very good chess player. I can probably beat anybody in this room in a chess game.
Bragging rights. Please wait for him outside and test it out. All right, tell us who you are.
Hello, everyone. My name is Iene Ikpe, popularly known as Tapi. I run the learning programs at Genesis Tech Hub. I'm into human capacity development. I'm also the project lead at Studio X. Fun fact about me, as you can see, I'm left-handed. Thank you.
Interesting. Chooks, you're next.
Good day, everyone. My name is Edoga Albert Chukwode. I'm the CEO of Digital Dreams, founder Link School, founder Flixus Entertainment, right? I run software development, training, IT consultancy, and the fun thing about me is that I am an apprentice magician. Thank you.
Thank you. Eliezer, please tell us.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Eliezer Aja. I lead job creation at 3MTT. One interesting thing about me is that I've beat him in chess. I'm the only person I've beaten.
It happened once.
So I would like to ask the organizers of this program to please set the ring for both of them after this session. Wouldn't you like to find out? That's it.
It's fine.
Nobody should run, Sha. All right. Thank you for joining us. Very quickly, we are over 200 million in Nigeria, and statistics say that 35 to 45% will have to be tech savvy by 2030. Sometimes it's quite scary given that some say at this point we're at 7%. So I'd like to start with Chooks, a private sector person. Please tell us, because you see a room full of, part of that 200 million that are seated here. What is the skill gap that you have noticed because you've been in this sector? What would you say, the work that you have been doing with Dreams, what would you say is the skill gap that they need to cover this room?
I think the very first skill gap is literacy. As funny as it is, if you have tried employing or even getting people to do things or even to train them, you notice that there is still a literacy gap. People still find it difficult to express themselves, to be confident to say what they need to do. Even the confidence to read and understand is still a gap. The second gap, if you notice, is most tech skills require some level of critical thinking. And the course that develops critical thinking is mathematics. If you understand, if you look at so many persons, people even in school, they will say they are afraid of mathematics. If you are going to go into tech, you require critical thinking. To develop critical thinking, your mathematical foundation needs to be solid, right? Then if you look at those two things, the third skill gap is the gap between theory and practical. One of the things people don't understand that is in tech, you have to it takes time to build skills. There is this illusion that once you enter tech and learn a skill, you start earning 1 million naira, 2 million naira. It doesn't happen that way. And when people don't get that in the first 2 months, they sometimes lose hope. They don't move ahead to practice. It takes time to hone your skill, to practice, understanding the fundamentals, pushing your skill to the point where you are a professional. So these are the 3 fundamental gaps that I've noticed within the industry. Thank you.
Brilliant. Brilliantly put together. Thank you very much. And that would naturally lead me to ENA Genesis. You boast or have a reputation of producing talent-ready people who are just ready to face the market. So what are the relevant employability traits that you prepare people for when they want to go into the market? Just share some models with us to match the gap he has just talked about.
Okay. I think the major problem, lots of people have, and they fail to realize, is that it's not just about having that skill, right? Having the skill is enough, but for you to be employable, you need to have more than that. So you ask yourself several questions. You ask yourself, are you able to collaborate? Are you able to collaborate internally? Are you able to collaborate externally, right? And the way some of our programs are structured, we encourage that. We are very, very intentional about collaboration. As a product designer, you have that skill, good and fine. As a front-end developer, you have that skill, perfect. But do you know how to relate with people that do other skills? As a product designer, can you relate with the devs? When you design on Figma and you're done, handing off to your devs, and then your devs build the product, and they hand off to the QA engineer who checks the product for bugs. And of course, everything is being run by your product manager, making sure everything goes from stage to stage and the likes. And of course, you have other facets too. How able are you, to execute that perfectly? Because the truth of the matter is that nowadays, when recruiters are looking for talent, when they want to employ talent, they are not asking themselves, how good are you at this skill? I mean, that's good enough. That puts you on that interview stage. That puts you on the stage where they have to talk to you. But do you know how to collaborate? Do you know how to work together to build products? So I feel the most employable skill you need to have is the power of collaboration, how to relate with other people, how to come together to, give birth to something amazing. We can use this ETF for an example. It wasn't done alone by one person. It wasn't done by one organization. It wasn't just done by the government. There was a combination of the government, the private sector, to come up with these amazing events, which we are all here to enjoy. So think about, how am I able to collaborate to bring out something meaningful? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Out of curiosity, do you have some people that you have trained in the room? Can you give a big shout out to them?
I would say almost 70% of people here probably, have heard of Genesis Tech Hub or know about Genesis Tech Hub. So I know most people have or heard of it or are part of our programs or have been part of our programs. And fun fact, amongst 4 of us in this panel, 3 of us passed through those programs. So you can say it shows how much we'll be able to impact people. So yeah, thank you.
Brilliant. He said 70%. Are you here? Are some of you here? Please show your hands. Make some noise for Genesis. Brilliant. Okay, so let's Jerry, let's talk about RiseVest. You are structured and have beyond short courses. How can do you see yourself collaborating with tech hubs to have or even have longer span trainings for people?
Yeah. So I think at the RiseVest Academy, which I lead at the moment, we are very intentional about that. We run a 1-year-long program where you come in, you pick up one of the skills, either software development, design, or the rest. The reason why it's 1 year is because we know that when it comes to this tech thing, when it comes to the skills itself, you need to have enough time to not just learn, but also build. So it's a full picture, right? The tech industry and the tech ecosystem, which is why we're here today, is what it is because it is one of the only sectors in Nigeria that is able to give young people the opportunities to build careers just based on what they can do, what they can learn and do by themselves. So for tech hubs, it's a full picture of while you're thinking of training, while you're thinking of the things that, young people can come and learn in your programs, at the same time, you're speaking to partners, you're speaking to organizations that are building, you're speaking to startups. Because the whole pipeline, everything that's going on is also largely powered by the jobs that have been created by organizations and created by the startup industry, which is huge, not just in Nigeria, also outside. You have a lot of companies outside Nigeria that are looking to hire Africans, right? I've been opportune to work with a number of them. They are actively looking to, work with Nigerians, work with Africans, because they see that aside from the skill, we have the grades, we're able to actually do the work from start to finish, right? So tech ops have to look at it, step back, look at the training programs, make sure that the training programs are as well versed as they should be. And I must say that we've made a lot of progress here. You have the Genesis Tech Hubs, you have the RiseVerse Academies, there are a lot of others. You even have Digital Dreams as well, who has done a lot of work to make sure that their own program is proper. But on the other side, you also have to engage employers, engage the government, engage people that can create the jobs that will validate those skills. Because at the end of the day, young people here just want to learn so that they can build something meaningful for themselves, work, and then just build a comfortable life for themselves and their families. And this is happening. Yeah.
I'm coming back to you shortly. Let's go to Eliezer. You're the big elephant in the room. You're the big elephant amongst us because it's a national program, 3 million technical talents. What are the lessons so far? You've been in this space. What are the lessons? What needs to be strengthened? And what have you discovered with job creation in this space?
Thank you so much. I think from the work we've done at 3MTT, which is typically an iterative model where every cohort, we take lessons and integrate it in the next cohort. Some of our key lessons has been that, first of all, we can't do this in isolation. It's something we have to do with, systems that work and in collaboration. So that's why we have things where we call applied learning clusters, which are tech hubs around Nigeria, like Genesis and a couple of others, that we use to enable learning so that people that want to learn are also able to find communities to drive their learning. Because we're able to find out that learning tech, code, some of these things are very difficult, stressful things. And at the end of the day, people that want to do this need communities to be able to push them and need actual structured mentorship systems to ensure that they can grow. So which means collaborating with tech hubs around the country that are able to give this support to ensure that people learn and grow is important. But on the job creation side, I think the key learning was that we don't have a proper demand identification system yet. We're still trying to do courses because, this is the course that they hire the most for. So people go and learn front-end development, back-end development, while there are more in-demand skills like AI automation and stuff like that. And the failure in that system is because we're not able to see what the market is asking for before we now train people to now get these jobs. So we're not solving for jobs of the future, but just solving, as is. So the missing piece is a proper demand identification system. And not just an identification system, but an intelligence system where we're able to say, in Enugu, 20,000 businesses are able to hire somebody that can do data analysis for them, for instance. It means there's a market demand for them. It's simple economics. So we can now train data analysts, and we know that there's a high propensity for them to get jobs. Now, think of this across board. where if you want to open a training center, you're able to use this intelligence system to say, these are the courses we want to train, and we can assure people they are going to get jobs and tie this to outcomes. So for me, that's the key learning and key lessons where for a national system to work at scale, we need to build a demand identification system.
Thank you very much. One of the key words I heard you use, collaboration. By the way, collaboration after data is the new gold. You can't do it alone. So that takes me to Chooks. Let's talk about the partnerships now. He just mentioned collaboration. The partnerships between tech hubs, government. How about the underserved regions? How about, is it just about the city, Enugu? How are you reaching out? What partnership do you see there?
I think partnership is quite important. And on the national scale, 2MTT is doing a good job trying to do that. And there's also the TVET program by the federal government that is also into creative media and also digital skills, which is quite nice and is helping. But there's something that needs to be really done. We really need to have, first of all, a national certification system for these tech skills. If somebody says a front-end developer or a back-end developer or a full stack or a digital marketer, there should be a national certification system, a standard. Now, if you have that standard, you have done the first part. The second part is, how do you create incentives for people to train others on these skills? And it is, for me, I always propose this. If you have a standard, a certification system, you could say, I'm having a partnership with a hub, any hub in any of the underserved area, like a hub in Ubola for a hub in Oji River, right? If you have a system there, if you can train any person that can pass this certification exam for this skill, we are going to pay this amount. In that case, you are paying for results, you are not paying for the training. So you could also see that even if I register as a peer-to-peer, I can take 10 persons even as a developer myself and register myself within the system, train 10 persons on my own by whatever means, and they can pass this exam, and it means that I will be rewarded. Such reward system, some level of partnership, will actually help fasten the teaching and penetration of digital skills. Because it is not just hubs. I run a hub, so I understand how difficult it is. And if you are running a hub, you want to get your return on investment. Because in as much as it is a social enterprise, you also don't want to actually run your pocket dry running it. So putting it in probably in an underserved area or is in the local communities might be quite difficult. But if you have such system where there's a certification and there is an incentive for people to train, and they will be rewarded if any of those persons, if their trainees are certified, it becomes something that can penetrate these underserved areas and improve the digital skill framework of the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Please, if you want to clap, let's appreciate them more. So I have always wondered if these tech terms, we just said underserved areas, can it be taught in languages? You said we're taking it back to the communities. Can tech, and is a train-the-trainer thing, can languages be used to teach people so that there's that everybody's, I'm just asking general, I'm asking you, what do you think? Partnership means you can't leave me out if I don't speak English. Remember?
If you have to, if you take it to underserved, that means you can teach it in Igbo now. Yes, it's easy to tell the basic concepts. Coding, for instance, work with syntax. And the syntax, though, has to be in English. Sometimes we don't have an Igbo syntax yet. So maybe all the coders in the house, we should have an Igbo syntax, for instance, for writing codes. Because in Chinese, they do have that.
Yes.
But it can be taught in Igbo, it can be taught in Yoruba, it can be taught in Efik. So,
Thank you.
So we can always use our local languages. Even the examples can be used, that you are using can be indigenized, and it's quite important we do that.
Thank you. But because I believe that it's easier for you to learn something when they use something within your environment. The Enugu coders, this is for you. Let's grow our own. Let's use language based and see how far we can go for the underserved. It takes me back to ENA and training. March 8th is International Day for the Women. Very soon we start seeing that we're not represented. The number is 20%, 30%. Let's talk about inclusion. While you train, how are you covering this gap for even non-STEM users? What are you intentional about bringing women? We have talked about rural people, employable youth. What's your inclusion policy like?
Okay, I think the first key thing is intentionality, right? Inclusion does not happen by accident. If you're neutral, you're already excluding people. There's this famous image I used to see about equality and equity, where there are three people looking over the fence. One is tall, one is medium, one is short. And of course, the short guy can't see over the fence, the medium guy can't see over the fence, but the tall guy can. And there are 3 blocks that can help them. So they share the blocks, each of them, one by one. It doesn't affect the tall guy because he could already see. It doesn't help the short guy because even with the block, he still can see. But of course, the middle guy can now see. So that's equality. But it doesn't really solve the problem. But when you talk about equity, you give the short guy 2 blocks so the short guy can see. You give the medium guy 1 block so he can see. And the tall guy doesn't need a block because he can still see what is happening over the fence. So we need to be intentional about including women into what we do in the tech ecosystem. And we do that a lot. We collaborate with, in some of our programs, we do scholarships, and we make sure that some of these scholarships are, for women only. That's the intentionality there. We work with women-led organizations like Tabi Academy, we have Tech Girl Magic, we have Design Chicks, and we have Nexus Scale, which is a woman-led foundation. So we work with all these people to make sure that we are intentional about including women in what we do, in training them in these tech skills. And it goes beyond just the training. So what happens after? Women are well represented in our organization. In our program, Genesis Learnable, some of our key path leads are women. Some of our key mentors, some of our key facilitators are women. Some of our key staff in Genesis.
Interesting.
So we make sure that we are very, very intentional about that because at the end of the day, it's for everyone. Tech is for everyone. I mean, if you sit back, there will be an imbalance. Now, to answer your question about the non-STEM users, I think there's a demystification that needs to be done. We need to decouple digital skills from STEM elitism. Now, when I say STEM, some people don't know what STEM is, so I'll tell you what STEM is. STEM is when you talk about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So what she's asking me basically is that how do we make sure that non-STEM people that are not in these fields, are able to access the tech skills. So we have so many tech skills that are not related to STEM people. We have digital marketers, we have product managers, we have product designers, we have QA engineers, and these people must not come from STEM fields. And guess what? These skills are very, very important because without them, without digital marketers, how will we be able to market our products? And one of the things we also do in Learnable is what we call the Learnable Business Sessions, where we teach people how to run businesses. And for you to run a business, you must not be a mathematics student or a science student or an engineering student. Someone can come from law, someone can come from Bizard, and run a business, pitch yourself to investors, get funding, and you'll be able to impact more people that way. So these are the ways we ensure that tech is for all, for everybody, and there's no negativity in who can do tech and who cannot do tech. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if you have been worried that you're not tech savvy, this is it. And I want to believe that they can meet you after now to have that discussion further. Thank you very much. So, Jerry, the earlier speaker, we talked about money. No matter how we code, no matter what we do, there's that thing of financial literacy and digital literacy. So, what are people that want to make money in this space? I need you to speak to it for people who want to entrepreneurially do this.
Okay, so what I'll say here is, of course, while it's important, we're here for the tech ecosystem, we're here for the skills, we're here for the business. While it's important to pick up all those skills, and there's a famous book by Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers, that says you need about 10,000 hours to become an expert in any of these skills, for example. It's also important to understand that in the real world, it is valuation, numbers, and the money that still makes things move around. A lot of startups today, a lot of business, a lot of small businesses, for example, close up because of lack of funding or because of funds mismanagement or not being able to run operations. So what I encourage young people like myself as well to do is that while you're spending time trying to make a way for yourself, trying to build that skill, trying to learn front end or design or product management or whatever it is, it's important to keep your interests open. It's important to make sure that there are other things that you are about, right? So there's this whole notion that to be a techie, you have to be very nerdy or you have to be very, book focused or always on your screen or on your laptop, always studying. But to be honest, you find out that you would learn a lot of things when you try to start focusing on other concepts, like finance that you had mentioned. Yep. Today, for example, Nigeria's stock market has experienced a lot of growth over the years, and it is happening. You see the conversations on social media, on Twitter, and the rest, right? It's important that you get to be part of that conversation. Do not just be about one thing, one, tech skill or, whatever it is that you do. It's important that you try other things, right? Get into financial literacy. Get to know, for example, how to produce a song or, how to become a DJ. I have a friend, for example, who is a filmmaker, but he started learning how to become a DJ and also started earning from it. So all in all, it's important to just keep your mind open, learn as much as you can, and absorb stuff, absorb concepts, be about multiple things at the same time, and you find out that you learn so much that will make you a much more effective person, and even someone that's even more hireable. Because a lot of times in today's world, hiring managers want to hear about your experiences. What else have you tried apart from the tech, apart from the code that you know how to do, right? Do you know how to manage money? Do you know how to sing? What are your skills? Do you get? So my advice is just go out there. It's a very short life that we live. You need to get as much as possible and feed your interest while also building your skills at the same time. And that will make you a much better person at the end of the day. Yeah.
I'm coming to you now. Is sustainability. Because to make money, you need to sustain this thing that we're talking about, literacy, digital literacy. And you are there, your government, with the 3 M's. Yes. I'm coming to, do you want to say a disclaimer? You want to give a disclaimer?
No, I'm with you.
You're with me, right?
You're
national.
I'm not
so how do we close that gap, that collaboration gap of this is private, this is government, so that in the end, all we're talking about is sustainability, making sure that the youths are employable and is sustained. So,
I don't think there's a gap between government and private sector in terms of collaboration, right? For instance, with 3MTT, it's not ostensibly a government program. This is also funded by private sector as well. IHS, Airtel, MTN, Google are all funders of the 2MTT program. We have done collaboration historically because said that this incentivization should be tied to outcomes so that you're not just paying for things. And it's not just with government, with DFIs, all these foundations that want to fund things. The collaboration has to move from collaboration for collaboration's sake to collaboration tied to outcomes that are mutually beneficial. Because for collaboration to happen and to work, somebody has to benefit, the other person has to benefit for the greater good. So in scenarios where these collaborations are not tied to clear outcomes, then everything flounders. So as government, the role of government is to enable, not necessarily to implement, to ensure that there's a fair enough playing field for people to do stuff, and enablement is what we try to do. For instance, Old School powers the front-end development training. Product Dive powers the product management training. We have ALCs like LV integrated services, etc., that do the actual training as well. So that is the role government plays to ensure that people are able to do this. But then I think there's a default when everybody thinks that there's so much money in government and that the mere fact of doing these collaborations means you have to pay for these things to happen. If there's no commercialization potential in it, it's not viable at the end of the day. So my thinking is that there's a bit of a give and take to things where clear outcomes, whatever is coming in from a financial side is tied to these outcomes. If you're training people, what is the goal? The goal is not for capacity development. The goal is for jobs. So you've learned this skill. How do you monetize this skill? And how are you able to increase the economic reality of yourself and your family? So if they're able to tie these things to outcomes, where we say, if you do this training and 10 people get jobs, you get $1 million, then it's going to make more sense. And we're able to now do things at scale.
Thank you very much. There was something you said, but I'm going to leave your fellow panelists to argue that with you. So because if you mentioned, yes, that the people will expect you to pay. Please, these people in private sector, is there anything that is free? Would you want to do it free?
I mean, nothing's free, really. It's a whole cycle of value creation. Everyone will want to get their money at the end of the day.
So government,
pay me my money.
The private sector, they need their money, please. All right, so I would just want to ask all of you on this panel, if you were in a position of authority, this is 30 seconds question, and really you are at liberty to not disagree. What is that one existing digital platform or development skill that you will shut down? Or what is that one thing that you would do that you think will expedite digital literacy in Nigeria right now? What are we doing that is not working that you think let's shut it down?
Okay, let me just go quickly. So I will just talk from the perspective of my field, right? I think one thing that distracts a lot of Nigerians, especially in tech, is I will call them certificate-driven programs, because some people join programs just to get that certificate and do their photo ops and all that. But the problem is that if these programs don't solve employability issues, if these programs don't actually give skills that make you employable, then it's a waste of resources. And Nigeria cannot afford, to waste any more resources than we are already wasting. So I think programs like this need to be properly structured to ensure that if you go through digital training, you're actually getting a skill and you're able to be employed.
I hear you say they shouldn't do digital programs in university, because that's what your sound is. Part of the certificate we are talking about.
If you just focus on certificates.
No, Elias, please take it.
That's the problem.
Do you agree, Chooks?
I agree, but I think I have a different approach. I think one of the things we have been doing since is supply-driven training, where we wake up and we say we want to train 1,000 persons on these, 10,000 persons on these, and things like that. You also have the other aspect where people say, this is in vogue, I want to be a software developer, I want to be this, I want to be that. Supply-driven training doesn't work. We need to start demand-driven. And what do I mean by that? We need to be able to go to the industry and ask, how many persons do you need? Do you need 10 software developers? Do you need 5 graphic artists? Do you need 2 persons who are going to do your social media? And be able to collate the demand. Elijah mentioned something like that earlier. When you collate the demand, you know the number of persons you are meant to train. And not only that you know the number of persons you are going to train, but you also have the places where those people are going to work. So demand-driven approach needs to be what the government, the private sector, and anybody who is focused on digital training should follow. The supply-driven approach doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I know that a lot. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I have something different from what they had mentioned. So, personally, from my own point of view, I think the exposure to the skills that we're talking about need to be introduced. A review of curriculums. I know that education boards have been making efforts, but I think that these things need to be introduced as early as secondary school. From a personal story, I got introduced because I did computer science. I got introduced to programming at 100 level in the university. I know that it's not the same story for people in other fields, but the concern here is that you have a lot of young Nigerians who do not know that they need to have these skills until maybe they are in their 23, 24, 25 age. A personal story is when I was in the NYSC camp. At the time, I was already working with Genesis Tech Hub at that time, much earlier in my career. But what I noticed is that NYSC has this scheme called SAID. It's a skill program where people can learn barbing, vocational skills like shoemaking and the rest of that. What I found out there was that majority of the young people there during their NYSC, it was at that point that they were trying to figure out what they would do right after NYSC. So they were really, really clamoring to the vocational skills, at that age. And that's a problem because when you're starting at that point, you're a bit late to the picture. So if you had started, the vocational skills or the tech skills when you were 17, 16, 18, you'd be so much better. And I'll give you examples. We have a lot of founders today that are making waves, from this place. For example, there's a Nathan Wachuku who's been recently in the news for what he's doing at Terra Industries. I have met with Nathan a couple of times. Nathan is around 22, 23. If you ask him, he will tell you that he was probably exposed and he started maybe at 14, 15, 16 to programming and the startup world. And that's what has given him that leverage. So if we can start introducing these concepts at the secondary school level, it will be much better. Right? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So you have just answered the question that we were asking. It's not even a university problem. It's the fact that we should start early, put them in the curriculum, and that's against what Chooks and Yene were saying. So that's a very interesting thought there. Now to our dear audience, would really like to hear from you. Have you got questions? Have we ignited a thought that you would want us to throw more light on, please? Any hand? Can someone help us with the mic? There's a hand there, please. Okay, we can only take 3 questions. Please, let's keep it really short. Can a mic get to him?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Engineer Chibuzo Chigozie Anthony. I would like to ask this question, and this brought us back to what you said. If universities shut down, if universities shut down, do they have what it takes to move us forward? I would like to tell you that if eventually university closes down for 5 years from now, that tech alone has what it takes to drive us to where we're going to. Because I am saying this because we are no longer in the job economy. We are now in the skill economy. What you have upstairs is what takes you to where you're going to, instead of what university is doing for undergraduate, producing graduates that come to the labor market to start looking for job. Tech has the opportunity to train people For example, I could remember what happened when I wanted to
Yes.
raise capital.
Keep it short and simple so that we can make room for others,
Okay.
please.
For example, people can learn how to run Google ad. And the best you can tell any businessman is to tell him that you have what it takes to help him move
Sir,
his
have you
business.
got a question? No, I haven't heard any question in between.
Okay. So I am trying to answer the question you asked based on if what tech has what it takes to drive us forward to where we are going to compared to university shutdown for 5 years.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Please, I might not be too fast, but I would like everyone to comprehend what I'm about to say. First of all, thanks to Ugochukwu and thanks to this brother, Edoga. When he mentioned, first of all, based on your question, if you say if school shuts down, if you are not a thinker, if school shuts down, how can you start? First of all, when I was in institute here, I do go to night classes in UNEC, law faculty. I developed the habit of reading. I never knew where I was heading to then. Then at a time, I haven't tested EFCC employment opportunity in Kaduna. I failed. But finally, 2020, I picked up. I had to start tech from scratch. If you don't have the habit of reading, you can't even go find tech because it has to do with hands-on test. You must be actively studying once you have to do with tech. Everything is changing every single minute. So having gone deep in this, I'm based into hacking to the core. 2024 October, EFCC, the first question they threw on me. So we had someone like you. Where were you? The reason I'm saying this, if you don't develop the habit of reading, first of all, you can't even go find technology. So my question here is, based on what Brother Edoga said, you mentioned something of certification. Some people might not comprehend where you were coming from, but Cisco is doing it. We need to be sure that you know what you're doing. Cisco, you can study anywhere, even if it's in the bush, any state, any community. But whenever you want to write the exam, come and sit for the exam. Once you make it, you can get job anywhere in the whole world. May God Almighty be with us all. I have many questions, but let me not prolong it, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, very insightful. That will be the last. Does any lady want to speak? Is a lady holding the mic? Definitely a lady will speak. Please, after you, a lady will speak.
Thank you very much. My name is John. I have a very intriguing question because while we are putting it to society that government has a role to play and institutions have a role to play, I would like to reflect the question back on you because growing up, I was part of several writing competitions, Commonwealth and the rest. So I would like to reflect the question back to you. We have a role to society, being our tech hubs and what we do. But looking at influencing technology in our curriculum in schools and secondary schools, how can tech hubs, right, create social clubs that children can sign up to, that they can have, let me say, code-based games that these children can start playing at the early age as a part of a program that people can be part of and people can get skills that they can deploy in the market. So I'm asking the question, where can we see opportunity as tech institutions that you can bring these people in, not necessarily as a program, not necessarily because of the certificate, but just key into interest and passion, because that's where it starts from. And from there, you can groom the next startup or founder in the tech space. So I'm just asking the question relative to how can we find pockets of opportunities to create programs or create products that these people can get into from secondary school, primary school, and then we now build them up to.
Yeah. Very brilliant. Thank you so much. Brilliant question there. You would want to speak to it. Okay, I would just want to take the last question so we know that we're done with audience. Sorry? Okay. I wanted us to follow up. All right, Chooks. Yes, let's take the last question. Please just keep that thought. There's a lady. Please, let's appreciate her.
Good afternoon, everybody.
What's happening? I have a lady in front. Who is speaking?
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, thank you very much. So, thank you very much. I love this session so much. So, you said something about certificates, and I'm wondering that certificates, I think certificates they give to students these days for participation is not mainly just because they are very perfect in it that they can go into the field of tech. I think it's a strategy that most people use to draw in people to actually come in during their during any seminar concerning tech. So mostly they give certificates of participation. So my question is there any other means that they can use to make people have interest in tech without just using certificates as an encouragement for them to come in? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, you would forgive me when your gender has the mic. We'll take another lady. This is the last question, please. Please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I've been meaning to ask this question, and I think I found the right people to ask it. And the question is, as someone that have achieved a lot in life, and for me, being someone that wants to build something, I've heard a lot that you don't need money to start up something or funding. So I'm trying to ask, how did you guys do it? Like, was it just hard work and prayer, or just prayer?
Thank you very much. You are the right place and you get the right answer. So let's take the first one. Chooks, you want to take the first one?
I want to take his question on training for people and embedding tech in the curriculum. It's important, from what Jerry said, that when you start learning early. And I have 2 points to make. First of all is this. We need, as a policy, as a national police or a state policy, to create incentives for companies that are playing in the tech industry to sponsor clubs or sponsor the ICT labs of school as part of their corporate social responsibility. It is quite important. You need to create that as an incentive. That incentive makes sure that if you are playing in tech, you can adopt a school, create their labs, also sponsors people to teach them. But there should be a clear tax incentive because everything ends up in Naira and Kobo. The second one is this. Training has to be quite early enough. And I will say what we have been doing at Digital Dreams ICT Academy. We have, from the last year, been creating what we call the Kids Coding Club because he has been actually talking about training for social clubs for kids. It's an online training program. Right now, we did one in April. We did 3 last year. This year, we have done the first one, which was in AI storytelling. It started in January and it ended. In February, I've started the next one, which was on AI game development using Minecraft. And this introduces kids to coding, critical thinking, design. And the truth is that it is free and it's online. We are having the next program, which is the Easter Kids Coding Bootcamp, which is also free and online. And any of the kids here can join.
Okay.
You can always follow us at our social media and you enjoy that. It's free. So you could always start learning quite early.
What age range are you talking about
We are
now?
talking about from 6 to 15. It's free.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So who is answering? Our time is almost up. Who is answering?
So I can just quickly answer her question.
All right, please.
Yeah, I think the certification conversation, you need to move away from certifications. They tell you if you do a training, you get a US-based certification. If you ask people that hire, nobody asks for your certification. Nobody asks how many certificates do you have, where did you get the certificate from. What everybody's looking for is the skill set that you've garnered. They give you a technical quiz, they interview you, and if you're able to do that, you're able to do that. So if you're going for a training program, check the outcomes. Are they promising you jobs at the end of the day? Are they telling you that you're going to build your portfolio? during the learning. So you're going to have some sort of diary. Everything you learn, you're building it there. But if it's just because you're going to get a foreign certificate or a certificate, it doesn't cut again. So the incentivization for your learning should be, what will you use this to do? No employer is going to ask you for your certificate. They're only going to ask you for your skills. So always just check what skill set they're going to do, and that's that.
Thank you. Just, I think we should answer. Did you guys do fasting and pray? How did you make it?
Yeah, okay, we'll take that.
Okay, please quickly, because our time is up.
Okay, so the fasting and praying, actually, yes. I mean, the question you asked, right, is key. And why I say fasting and praying is key. I also tie it to my real answer. I think what is key in tech is your network, the network you build, right? You see lots of companies and you wonder, how did they start up? Where did they get this money from? And how did they do it? The answer is by your left-hand side and by your right-hand side. It's the people you relate with every day, the people you learn with, the people you work with. And that is why I'm always very key on networking. I always tell people, when you go for tech events, network properly. When you join communities, when you join programs, make sure that you form a bond with the people in the program, because that bond is going to take you a lifetime. There are friends I met in the internship program I joined, Learnable 20. There are friends I met there, and what we do today together, people wonder, how did they start? But it's from that friendship that we got more people that have the skill sets required to do what we do, and we're able to get funding, and we're able to, do amazing stuff. So networking is key, and you need to take that very important. Thank you.
We're out of time. Jerry, please just add your one bit, and we have to leave.
Oh, yeah, so just to add to what he said, yes, networking is very important, but as well, you have to be the most hardworking person in the room. And I'll give you a reality check before we leave. This is 2026, and it's probably the worst time to be a newbie in tech. However, if you're still the most hardworking person in the room, you're still going to shine, build your skills, and get everything. I'll give you the reality check. Dangote is still working for more money today. Davido is still working for more money today. Ugochukwu Aronu, for example, who is a superstar, has been a superstar for years, is still working today like today is his first day. So if you have all these big superstars grinding on a daily basis, you must key into that, and you must be the most hardworking person for yourself as well.
Thank you very much. It's been an interesting conversation with all of you.
Let's put your hands together for this beautiful team.
If Enugu gets it right, then Nigeria will get it right. Thank you very much for listening to us.
Okay, a quick picture session for them. And I hope you understand that fasting and prayer works too. So fast and pray and put in the work, and God will do it for you. Amen? Thank you very much. Please put your hands together again for them. Thank you so much, Choma, Yvonne, Aningwe, and team, for that beautiful panel discussion. We have taken it all the way from building scalable digital products from Africa down to driving financial inclusion and digital payments innovation in Nigeria's heartland, down to survival lessons for the new frontier, and to this panel discussion on can tech hubs, do it alone. To take us to the next segment, I will not be handling that. I'd like to introduce my next co-host to take over for the rest of the day. He's someone I respect so much, mostly in the film industry, for what he has done and what he is going to do. Please join me and welcome Lorenzo Menakaya. Please put your hands together for him as he takes over for the rest of the day. And please give him the energy that he deserves. Keep clapping till he comes here and takes the microphone. Thank you so much. Lorenzo, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Nalu. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, wow. Y'all prefer females? Because I can get her back and add some money to her fee. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to future billionaires. Okay, they answered. Good afternoon to future prayer warriors and, that would make billions after praying, that sort of thing. It works. It works. I'm excited to be here again. Yesterday was amazing. We had His Excellency, the Governor of Enugu State, the Commissioner for Innovation, Science, and Technology. And of course, I was on the stage with a co-compare who led us, of course, who led the team of compares. So, yeah, today is not an exception. I'm taking my time to prepare for them to get ready because the next conversation, but I want you guys to understand something. I've been thinking about it. I've been calculating money since I walked into this place because I see a lot of our young people, a lot of great people doing great stuff. Someone like Ugochukwu Arona, he just walked out. I just imagine what he has in his account. It's just imagination. Someone like Napa Onwosa. Hey, money people. Some people that we know, they've done great stuff and they're still doing great stuff. And then I'm looking at young people, 16-year-olds, 17, 18, from UNN, from ASUT, from IMT, from Caritas, from Go Uni, from Renaissance, to all the other institutions around us, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, and all around. And how interested and invested they are in this thing going on here today. And then I think to myself, in years to come, I'm not talking about many years to come, I'm talking about in a decade or even less than that, we'll have a lot more billionaires and millionaires and dollars that would also come here to speak to the next set of students that are in school and are interested in becoming like them. And I look at your faces and I can see some of you. That's why I try to take as many pictures as I can so that when, like my sister, over there, when she's done working hard, coding, programming, and then praying and fasting and becomes a billionaire, I'll identify with her. It makes a whole lot of sense and a lot of difference to what we are doing. So it's time for us to go to the next thing we have in our agenda. The persons I'm going to invite, in fact, every single thing I've said before now, I was talking about them because they've done it all. They've seen it all. So it's the best thing for us now to listen to what they are doing. I'd like to, the next item we have in our agenda is a fireside chat. Tech ecosystems are not built in isolation. They are carefully designed through international platforms or intentional platforms, strategic partnerships, and experiences that shape culture and capital. From executing large-scale gatherings across multiple African cities to shaping narratives that attract founders, investors, and policymakers, building a skill requires more than management. It demands ecosystem thinking. So in this fireside chat conversation, these two people are going to reflect on the journey of designing and scaling high-impact tech platforms across Africa, unpacking the role of design, structure, and long-term vision in building movements that extend far beyond the stage. So I'm going to invite the moderator first, and when I do, she'll invite the guest that she'd have on the stage with her. Now, she is a global startup advisor and a principal partner at SDC Startup School. Her experience and things I'm not sure I want to take a whole lot of time to talk about, but she's been with MasterCard Foundation and a lot of other platforms where she's been investing her energy and what she learned on time. So ladies and gentlemen, she came all the way from the Federal Capital Territory to be here with us today to moderate this next session. Let's put our hands together for Cynthia E. Chisom. We call her CEC. Please put your hands together for her. And when she comes here, she's going to let us know who her guest would be. Keep clapping. If you know who this person is, you'll be clapping. Make it louder for Cynthia. We have a female that is championing things around the world. Thank you. Please. Ora, here's a microphone for you. All right, I'll leave the stage.
Thank you very much. Awesome. I think there is a call and response, right, for ETF. What's the response when we say ETF? Tomorrow is here? What? All right, so ETF 2026. Nice, nice. I'm hoping that our energy will increase as we go on. There's something that one of the panelists said in the last session, trying to answer someone who is trying to become a millionaire in 5 years, that networking is very, very critical, right? In addition to prayer, in addition to hard work, networking is very critical. This person I'm about to bring up is someone who plays a very key role in ensuring that networking happens across the globe. There are two kinds of people in any event or in any ecosystem. There are those who make it possible for networking to happen. So, for example, this event was created by someone. And then the other set of people are those who leverage those gatherings, right, to create something incredible for their city and for their continent. And coming to this stage with me to have a conversation about it is no other person than Clinton Nemeka. Please put your hands together for him. Don't come yet, just stand, please stand. I've worked with Clinton for over 2 years, where I was the VP for Ventures and Ecosystem, working directly with him as we executed some of the largest events on the continent: the Africa Startup Festival, the Africa Technology Expo. And I've seen him really put a lot of effort to ensure that magic happens during those events. And I'm so happy that ETF has considered it really perfect to have this conversation. So please, let's invite the one and only Clinton Nemeka. Please put your hands together for him. Keep clapping, keep clapping. Keep clapping as he joins me on stage as we talk about this very, very important conversation. Keep clapping. Thank you. Thank you, Clinton. It's not easy to pull off some of this event, you know?
At all.
But we're going to go down into the ethos because even though it's not easy to pull these events together, we all know that these events are very essential, right? These platforms are very essential. So I want us to do a deep dive into it because I'm hoping that someone listening here today would maybe one day be responsible for creating those kinds of environments. We also have representatives from different organizations here who would also need to collaborate with those who are creating those kinds of platforms. So first off, I want you to just break that down. What's the difference between creating platforms, tech platforms, and actually building successful products? Is there a link between those two sides?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. Hi, everyone. It's really great to be in Enugu State. Big ups to the team that put this together, Eli and the Honorable Commissioner. Really, amazing event. I think that one of the very interesting things about working in these ecosystems is the fact that there are very young people who are really excited, who are really ambitious about building solutions that solve problems. And I think that it's really interesting to have events like this that bring everyone together, that gets you a step closer to probably a partner, probably an investor, or probably someone that you would do business with in the future. And in fact, just to piggyback to that person's question, I think one of the very fun things about networking is the fact that sometimes we come to these events and we are hoping to connect with an investor or a partner, and we don't try to speak to the guy that is beside us or the guy that is a few steps beside us because we feel, you're my peer, we shouldn't be talking. I'm looking for the money, you don't have it, right? But I think one of the very interesting things that I've come to realize is that the person who is sitting beside you might actually be your biggest investor in the next coming years. And you shouldn't, try to size the person up because probably he's not looking funky, he's not looking all glamorous. It's really interesting to sort of connect with people that are your peers and keep those relationships because they are really going to be interesting, going to be really relevant to you along the line. But just back to your question, the difference between building solutions and building ecosystems, right, that are very impactful. So I think that when it comes to ecosystems like this, right, which are pretty much people who are building stuff or investing in stuff, I think one of the major identifiers or major, checklists for these things is their impact tied to it. So, for example, yes, you brought people together. Yes, you guys connected. You had lunch, and you hosted 1,000 people. But the question is, okay, after that, what's next, right? How are you keeping that momentum alive, right? And how are you, keeping that fire alive? And that's one thing I love about the state. They're being very intentional about what happens next. I was just at the exhibition area, and I saw someone hand me a flyer about Enugu Development Innovation Program because application to apply or call to apply because that's a clear next steps. Okay, I'm seeing Arinze have a hackathon and they're funding ideas, and I love these activities because it's clear, right? You're actively supporting people, building products, building solutions. And yes, these events are really relevant because then you get them together and you're able to say, okay, you know what, this is the next step. This is who you're looking for. This is who is the next person that you should talk with. So yeah, I think it's really interesting.
Thank you, Clinton, for really highlighting that ecosystems are very, very critical because you can't build a successful product outside of your ecosystem.
Correct.
There's a reason why a founder in Ilorin won't see as much opportunities as a founder in Lagos, simply because people are not curating ecosystems for that founder. So that brings me to the second question around designing for scale, because you've done the ASF in Nairobi, Kenya, in Lagos, plans to even go to London, Doha, and the likes, right? How do you build for scale while still being contextual to the local realities that you are building these events at?
For sure. I think one of the very things to understand is that there is no event without community, right? Community makes things happen. That you have people building stuff is what makes these activities happen. So, and I will try to answer this question from a standpoint of if you're building stuff. So when you're building, it gets to a point where you tell yourself, okay, I need to move to a new market. Or probably I need to test new audiences. Maybe the guys in Enugu are not responding well to my product. Maybe it's time for me to consider Lagos State. It's time to consider Abuja. And the biggest question sometimes to people is they ask themselves, when is the right time to think about this? When is the right time to say, okay, this is the time I should move? I think one of the interesting things to look out for when you're asking yourself, is it time to scale my solution? Is it time to scale my product? One of the very identifiers you need to look out for is how far have you built in that market? So I will give you an instance. So for example, you're building a product that helps mothers, have, a great postpartum experience. And then, it's an app. It gives you access to tools and all of those things. And probably you're building this solution in Enugu State, and then you're like, okay, probably there are not a lot of mothers in Enugu State. Maybe I should go to Lagos, right? Most times, you want to ask yourself, before you go to start doing or start scaling, you need to research. First, research that ecosystem you want to go into or that region you want to go into. Research, okay, what is how do people respond to mobile apps? Okay, when mothers give birth, what's the experience for them postpartum, right? sir.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
I hope we're
Sorry
good.
for that.
All right. So I think we can get back to the conversation.
Okay. I hope you're fine though. But then, like I was saying, research is very important. You want to research that location of that market and ask yourself, okay, what are the things I would ask or I would need my customers to do? Let me ask them the questions. You want to research that first because you don't want to go blindly into a market that you do not have any way to navigate it. And research helps. The other thing that's very, important is what's the depth of work you've done in your current market? Most times you've just put out a newsletter or run a campaign for 1 week and you're like, okay, now it's time to move. No, it's not time to move. You still need to deepen your impact in your current market, right? You want to know, you want to ask yourself this question first. Have you actively deepened your impact in this market? Have you done all you can to market to people that would be your potential customers? Have you done all there is to do to partner with organizations that could help take you a step further in your current market? The third thing you want to look out for is, have you tried to pivot smartly, right? And when I mean pivot, I mean instead of targeting mothers, how about you target newly wedded couples, right? You want to be very, particular about how do you maximize your work in your current market before you think of expanding. But when you're scaling and you think it's the right time to scale, one of the things that I've seen to be really beneficial is partnerships. You can never do things alone. No matter how smart or how good you think you are, you can never do things alone. Either if you're building a product, a new ecosystem, an event, whatever, you can never do it alone. And when you're scaling to a new market, you want to ask yourself, who can I identify in this market that can complement the current offers that I have? I've seen this work out with many products that expanded. For example, Spyro expanded to a new region. And with Spyro, they offered the bikes, but they also offered the batteries. And so what they did when they were moving was ask themselves, okay, can we find a partner in Uganda that can offer us a battery as a service? Because then they would not start thinking about the overhead cost of having to build battery infrastructure. It was simply them going to partner with organizations in that market that can complement their solutions. So to answer your question, I think partnerships has been a very good, activity for us because we're able to identify people in those new markets to be able to offer complementary services. But before scaling, you want to ensure you've done all there is to do in your current market because if you're scaling, that is cost. That's a lot of money, right? And do you have that to spend? If you don't, you want to think of new ways to make it work in your current market.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So I want us to go to the second category of people in the room, right? So when you create these kinds of platforms for people to connect, for different players to really find themselves in the same room, how can a young person, how can someone who is new to these ecosystem conversations basically prepare and leverage the most so that they can draw a lot from those kinds of places, right, that are being curated? How do you expect your attendees to make the most out of your event so that they can draw value and create magic?
Valid question. So as a newbie in tech, what are the things you should do when you come to gatherings like this to get the most value out of it? Correct? Okay. So I think you first want to identify if you're actually a newbie in tech. So, and then newbie in tech could be you just started taking a course in probably software engineering, data analytics, and whatnot. Newbie in 50 flyers or 70 flyers, 50 flyers or 70 flyers. And when she came to that event, all she was focused on was connecting with corporate attendees, enterprises, folks she knew that could employ her. And she went to each one, gave them a flyer, and said, "This is about me, this is what I do." She gave them a quick 1-minute speech about who she is and how she can contribute to that company, right? And she did that, and she exhausted her flyers. Now, imagine my surprise when I log onto Twitter a week after, and I see one of the exhibitors say, "Oh, we hired this lady who gave us a flyer." Right? So, there is no one quick fix to maximizing opportunities from events. It just boils down to you thinking, okay, how do I do something different? Typically when we come to these events, it's pretty much, oh, hi, how are you? This is who am I? Blah, blah, blah. Here's my card. Talk to you later. And you move to the next person, right? But you want to ask yourself, how do you reduce that friction? And it boils down to knowing what you indeed want. And also understanding that not everything would happen immediately. Some things take a while, right? I've had people that I was nurturing to work with 3 years back, and I'm only getting to work with them this year or probably last year, right? So when you're coming to this sort of events, you want to ask yourself, okay, am I looking for people to, probably I'm a founder, and I'm looking for talent to work with. Okay, so I'm looking for talent, and I should be focused more on probably going to the training lounge to speak with people, probably even just putting a post and saying, oh, I'm attending ETF, and I'm looking for these roles. If you want to work with a viable startup, please let us have a meeting at the event, right? It could also boil down to, if you're looking for employers, again, it's about speaking to these people and understanding how exactly can you build those personal relationships. Because most times we come to these events and we're like, okay, you know what? I want to leave this event. Yes, there is the foundation that if you're coming to the event, there must be an outcome. You must, get 3, 4, 5 leads, right? But you also need to understand that everything won't happen there. So you mustn't make every interaction transactional. You might say, okay, you know what? I want to connect with you. I want to build a personal relationship with you. We might not get to work now, but probably 2, 3 years down the line, or even a few months down the line, things will work out. But you want to establish those relationships in events like this, because then you're able to keep them, you're able to connect with them, and not it being a pure, you don't have what I want, I'm moving on, right? So that's really important. And just understanding that, some of the outliers in our current ecosystem were people that did things differently. I just gave the example of the lady that printed her CV in flyers. That was different. No one else did that, right? So you want to ask yourself, okay, how do I do things differently that is not the typical way people do it? And that's really just one of the major successes.
Yes, I totally agree. I, for one, have a story that is very interesting. I actually raised my first funding from a networking lounge at an event in Abuja, and I'd always known the person, right? But that space just created room for that kind of conversation to happen, and that led to investment. I don't know if you noticed, there was this guy at Tech Cabal that printed what he does in a very large bag. I was walking around Tech Cabal's moonshot, just basically saying what he does, right? So these examples that you have shared is very critical. Leverage different methods to gain attention, but also realize that some of these contacts that you generate may yield something in 2-3 years from now. You must be focused on relationship building. Thank you so much, Clinton, for that.
Yeah, and just to add to it, also, you should also have value to offer. You can't just be empty and say you want to connect with people and expect valuable responses if you don't have value to offer, right? So, for example, if you're, and then also understanding that if you want to be an outlier, you have to do things differently. And differently could boil down to, okay, like the flyer lady, there are other ways you can go about these things. Just understand that you need to have value to offer, because if you don't have any value to offer, it will just really just be, hi, we see each other at events and we're on to the next one, right? And that value is really important. And value could be your skill set. It could be what you're building. It could be, what you've built so far. You just have to have value to complement each other.
Amazing. So just be a valuable person. Thank you, Clinton, for that. And I think our final question before we take a question from the audience is, I mean, there are platforms that have already been created, platforms like this, but what other types do you think we need to create so that, you can inspire somebody in the room to maybe create those kinds of events and gatherings and platforms for more collaboration to happen within cities and across the continent?
Well, one thing I can definitely say is that it doesn't have to be big. It just needs to solve a problem. So, for example, I've seen scenarios whereby I was looking to connect with people of a certain profile. I reached out to 3 or 4 of them and said, you know what, can we have lunch? Let's have lunch, let's connect, let's see if there are ways we can work together, right? I think it's just boiling down to who are you, what do you want, and who are you looking to connect with, right? It doesn't have to be you hosting another Enugu Tech Fest. It could boil down to as simple as, okay, I need to connect with people on this angle. I can host a small dinner. Oh, I can host a small cocktail event. I can host this, I can host that, right? You don't really need to go this big. I think another thing to identify, if you're building a product or a solution, which I think might be very relevant, is that community is key. If you're building a product and you need customers really early, you need to be able to build those evangelists very early on. Have people believe in your product. Have people feel like they are seen when they are working with your product. And it doesn't have to be something crazy. It could boil down to, these guys at this product or at this business are very particular about customer service. They own your problem and try to fix your solution. I will give an instance. So I was working with the guys at Eventbrite at some point, and we used them for a period of time. And one of my best experiences working with Eventbrite was that when I encountered some issues, one of their customer service agents literally reached out to me and said, you know what, I'm going to work with you to get this fixed today. And, I've been very bullish on working with Eventbrite. So if you're building products or solutions, one thing you want to look into is, I need to build a community of people that believe in my products, that trust my products, that get solutions from using my products. And it could boil down to having great customer service. It could boil down to how you go, if you have enterprise clients, how you go a step further to get your clients matched with each other to do business, right? How do you go an extra mile, right? If you're doing a business, if you're building a community or you're building a solution, one of the very good things to know is that community is what makes your product survive. Always create avenues where people feel seen, people feel like they belong within using your products. And again, it doesn't have to be crazy. Just the little things move the needle for people. And I'm sure everyone here can relate to that.
Very valid, very valid. This is something that many companies, even Canva, they have communities built around their products. Paystack, really invest a lot in community building. Piggyvest, so much so that they host different pop-ups, across the city. So if you really want to ensure that your product goes really far, definitely leverage building communities. Okay, so I will take one question from the audience as we wrap up. Any question? Okay, so I think I'll ask Clinton one final question. How do you manage people ghosting you after an event?
About that, there's honestly things you can do about that. One of the things that I've seen work is try to make it less transactional very early on when you have those conversations very early on. Try to make it less of, okay, I needed to invest in my business, and I needed to invest in it now or never. So more of, okay, I see you're investing in people or in this past solutions. Can we have a chat, or can I get to learn more about some of the stuff that you've had investing? To be on a more personal connection and not a clear, okay, invest now or no. I think the other thing to look out for is also increase your pool of people. It mustn't just mean 3 people and that's it. If you want more people responding back to you. If you want, you reach out to more people, right? You can reach out to 30, 20, 40 people, and I'm sure 2-3 people can take off those conversations post-event.
Amazing. Thank you so much. At least that's better than sending Merry Christmas, Happy New Year every other day. So thank you so much, Clinton. This has been a very fantastic conversation, and I hope you guys have taken a lot of next steps till we see again. Thank you. Please put your hands together for Clinton.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Cynthia A. Chisom and also Nemeka Clinton. It's been a beautiful, very brilliant conversation, and I'm sure we all learned something from the two of them. And thank you for those questions. They were really hitting the right spots. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. This is still Enugu Tech Festival 2026, day 2. And we are having more fireside chats. We are going to have another one. This one is very interesting because it's coming from the academia. So you're more like going to see your teachers on stage where they are discussing something different. This one is called A Multi-Perspective View of Funding Trends, Opportunities, and Challenges. It's going to take a shorter while. And it's I have one of our people, or rather, the moderator is the head. I need to find that. Okay, so the moderator is an expert in EdTech, education, technology, and science, learning strategist, and human development consultant. And she is head of department biotechnology, Peaceland University, Enugu State. Please put your hands together for Dr. Chinenye Angela Ozago as she steps up to take us on this round. Of course, she's going to introduce the guests we have to sit on this fireside chat as we commence more and more conversations. Please, we're getting the stage ready for the conversation because I'm thinking it's going to be more than just the person, the guest, one guest, but more guests. Please put your hands together for Dr. Chinenye Angela Ozago. She's been very, very active throughout this festival, and I'm sure she's going to do more. Thank you, ma, for coming.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everyone. We welcome all of you to Enugu Tech Festival. We welcome our innovators, change makers, our investors. We are about to get into one of the pivotal panels for this program, where we will delve into the areas as it affects the academics. And the topic is, our research work ever going to leave the pages of journals, turning academic ideas into startup and real-world impact? You all agree with me that over the years, many brilliant academic ideas remain trapped in the pages of our journals. So really translating them into products, services, and startups. So the question is, why? Is it lack of funding? Is it lack of industry connection? Or do we attribute it to mentorship? Or is it a mindset that has been established over the years? So with me, to do due diligence to this topic, I want to welcome to the stage one of the panelists, a renowned professor, Professor Michael Onyama Ede. He's a professor of computer science, Dean Faculty of Allied Health Science, Coal City University. He's a visiting professor, Shobit University, India. He's an adjunct professor of Computer Science Department, IMT Enugu. He's also the state chairman, Enugu Computer Society, Enugu. Prof, you are welcome. Please put your hands together for him. Also to join us on the stage is Engineer Professor Nenna Nwobodo Nzeribe. She is a professor of computer engineering. She pioneered the establishment of biomedical engineering in Enugu State University of Science and Technology. She's currently serving as the Director of Research and Innovation Department, Center of Excellence. She's the first woman to occupy this position. You are welcome, Prof. Again, we have a seasoned data analyst, Dr. Nnamdi Obuke. He's a senior lecturer in operations and analytics at Hertfordshire University Business School, an expert in data analysis, supply chain management, and business intelligence. Dr. Nnamdi. Please, let's encourage him. You are all welcome to ETF 2026. Research works are not supposed to end in the pages of journals. They are waiting for translations to experiential learning or experiential realities for the benefit of the humanities. So let's just take a lead from Albert Einstein. You know, Albert Einstein, in his theory of relativity, at some point perceived himself as riding on a beam. And at some point, he turned it into reality. And that was when he generated the very famous equation, E is equals to mc squared. We all know that. It's our common physics. We all know that E is a kinetic energy, while m is mass of the body, and c is the speed of light. So with that, I want to ask our panelists a few questions. Before we will start, let's just find out from them what they think about this topic. Professor Nenna.
All right, thank you. The question is whether research work will ever leave the shelves into the society, into being a commercializable product. Yes, it is possible because it is in the institution. That is where research is being done. That is where you bring problem, you go to the lab, you analyze it, and when you now solve societal problem in the lab, the next stage is how do we bring it to the society? Yes, because in institution, there is three major, roles which the academia play. And what are the three roles? One is teaching, the second is research, and the third is community service. So while you teach, you try to look into the...
Professor Michael Onyema, what are the primary reasons? What are the primary reasons so much research remains confined in the journal rather than translating into startup? Is it a matter of funding, culture, or is there something else?
All right, thank you so much for having me. I would like to start by saying that this topic is very timely because we're at the time when the world are searching for solutions to emerging problems. And a lot of countries and organizations are turning into schools, universities, to help provide solutions to those problems. Institutions are hub for research, for innovation, and for solutions. Unfortunately, in developing countries, we are still struggling with a lot of things, which has limited the abilities of universities in Nigeria and many other developing countries to be able to turn research into problems solving or solutions. Coming back to your question, I agree with you that a lot of research projects that are being done in many developing countries, particularly in Nigeria, end up in shelves rather than being translated into problem solving. There are a lot of factors that are causing this. Number one, you have a strong research output, for weak commercialization. A lot of educational institutions lack the framework or technology transfer policies or offices that can help translate academic research works into real solutions that are marketable. So you see a lot of research work in the universities, only few of them are being turned into market-ready products. Players like Flutterwave, Paystack, they really source solutions or innovations directly from the academia. And that is a problem. Then, of course, we talk about funding gaps there. Then again, we can talk about talent migration. A lot of good talents in the university systems, the moment they complete their studies, rather than advancing or furthering the research they have conducted, they travel outside the country. And that is actually affecting productivity in the university systems. And then, of course, we have listened to some of the panelists before now, talking about how the university is becoming moribund, how it's becoming a certificate base, and all of that. That's because a lot of them are not also giving back to the system. So we want the entrepreneurs, a lot of the industry players to come and help us so that we can make our educational system more productive and also more impactful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. You just gave us a very insightful one. Dr. Nnamdi, please, can you share with us an experience or example of a research idea that successfully transitioned from journal papers to a high-impact startup? And at the same time, just give us what key factors that made that possible.
Thank you, everyone, for having me. I think this is a very interesting topic. And as a lecturer, I'm a good storyteller. So I'm going to tell you a story, a life story around this very particular topic. And it happens in Nigeria. Before I left, before I went to UK, I was one of a pioneering member, pioneering staff of a particular research work that turned into products. We started sickle cell drug in Nigeria. Some of you might have heard about it. We call it Nicosan. It's a product of research turning into products. So that particular ingredient was a Nigerian initiative by National Institute for Pharmaceutical and Drug Development, IDU. So this particular active that cures sickle cell drug was actually a Nigerian initiative. But Nigeria couldn't do anything about it until some scientists went and showcased this very drug in Rogers State University. And an Indian American saw that particular drug and got interested and patented it with Nigerian government. For complete 4 years, it was like a global drug in sickle cell anemia. So this is a product of research that turned into what? Products. But it requires somebody that has a business credentials and has the clouds. And that drug was standardized, and the only herbs that went through scientific development. And that's the only drug that, during that time, that doctors could prescribe it to patients. So that's a good example of a research that was turned into a product. But along the line, there are a lot of politics, and don't ask me what happens to that drug. It's one of the Nigerian issues. So that's give you a good example that a research can actually become something that can turn into a product. If you have a good, somebody that has that clout and business credentials. So it's doable. And this is a good example. Okay? So now, coming to your questions, there's a lot of bottlenecks that could lead to that. My fellow panel have mentioned that. If you don't have a good knowledge transfer partnership, there's supposed to be a synergy between the graduate skills and the enterprise skills. That synergy needs to be there for that research product to become either a service or product in the market. So there must be a serious collaboration. And the example I've given you now is something you can use as example. Yes, it's doable, but there must be a strong collaboration. So I don't know what I've attended to question.
Yes. You all agree with me that he did justice to it? Do you agree with me? All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Nnamdi. Professor Nenna, I would like you to share with us your personal experience. What are the challenges that academics are actually encountered in terms of moving academic publication to commercial viability, and how can it be bridged? The question is the challenges that academics encounter in moving academic publication to commercial viability, and how this challenge can be bridged.
Okay, the challenges, the university environment is having in taking researches from shells to products. Just like my colleague here has mentioned, he mentioned funding. But I agree with him that funding is part of it. But there are some research grants that are out there which we have not really explored, that are ready to fund any problem related. There is this European Horizon funding. If you go online, there are a lot of, grants, available to fund any viable, problem-solving research. So it is a problem because we have not been able to access it. So that is why it is a problem. And again, another problem we are having in Nigeria, though we are trying to have a paradigm shift from it, is the certification
everybody is talking about, even the last panel discussants. And when they are saying, leave certificate, I come to ask myself, do you want to discourage these young ones from going to the universities? You yourself, you have a certificate before you enter and get this skill. And I think that what we need to do is to have a paradigm shift. This paradigm shift is making our education from being teacher-centered to student-centered, which is part of the experience I had in last trip I had in Germany. Because they made students in class to be part of the study. They want the student to be part of problem solving because of digital skill that is available now, because of computer, internet, AI. These students you are making to teach, don't be surprised they even know more than you because they go far. So if we allow, our system to be student-centered, we carry them along. I think this problem of, taking research from shelf to product level will be achieved. Let me also give an experience I have when I visited Germany for skill youth development, training. What is the solution there? In their academy, they made tech to be 30% classroom and 70% industry. 70% of what the student learns is in the industry. The classroom is that they come there, give you little theory, and you go back to industry to practicalize. Yes, in our institution we do that. But we need a scale up because we teach you theory. For those in engineering where I'm coming from, you do theory year 1, year 2, year 3. In your 4th year, you are expected to go to industry to learn the practical. Even when I was in China, Beijing, China, I visited Beijing for biomedical engineering. They also told us that what they do is that they teach students. After some years, they take them back to industry. You see what is really lacking. We measure more in theory, more than the practical. And again, what is another experience I got in Germany? The experience is that they make their curriculum industry, educationist, and community. They go into the community and find problem that is existing. They go back and build it up in their curriculum. They go to industries and find out what problem they are having. Whatever the problem is, they go back and build it in their curriculum and start there to train students. While they train the students in research on how to do it, they take them back to that industry. And before you know it, problem will be solved. Do we have problem in Nigeria? Election is coming. Look at power supply. Can we come and stay in classroom and begin to teach our students? How can we have power free, power accessible, internet accessible, things accessible? Come bring the problem. Go inside the classroom, teach them the principle. Let me tell you, you cannot do away with the classroom because you have to know the basic principle before you go and solve the problem. Then you now go in the industry, solve the problem. And when problems are being solved, my dear, you will be happy, and I will be happy, and Nigeria will be developed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. I'm really impressed, and against our audience are also. I think the policymakers and those in the education sector here present should also consider integrating practical-based syllables in our curriculum, because many a time you find out that some of the theoretical aspects of our lectures or our lessons are student-centered. So what Prof is trying to say is that incorporation and integration of tech and an infusion of the practical aspect of every area of learning will be very important, very necessary for us to take education to the next level. Professor Michael, please, I would like us to...
Thank you so much. Before I answer the question, I would like to say something. A lot has been said about education and certification. It's important to know that if you have a skill without the sense to manage it, it could be a problem. So one of the things that education can help you to do is to empower you, to develop your mind, so that you'll be able to manage your skill and also see how you can advance your career in that line. Again, I also want to say that from the last speaker, that in many universities, they tend to, in Nigeria in particular, they tend to prioritize publication over products. So you have a lot of emphasis being placed on publication in top journals, all right, as a criteria for promotion or appraisals. For that reason, a lot of scholars tend to focus their efforts in getting their works published in top impact factor journals rather than engaging themselves in problem-based research. And this has created a lot of gaps. Then again, in Nigeria, we are not taking education serious. Thanks to the governor of Enugu State, who has devoted more resources in education. More than 30% of the budget of Enugu State for the past 2 years has been devoted in education. If you equate that with other states in Nigeria, we are far below the 26% affirmative action that is required in terms of funding in education. When you organize educational programs, people are not willing to fund it. A lot of quizzes, competitions have been organized, and you see the prices, very discouraging. But when you go to Big Brother Nigeria and other competitions, you have billions of naira, millions of naira as the prizes. So we need to change that if we really want to develop our educational system. And of course, the welfare packages for the lecturers, thanks to the new ASO agreement with the federal government. A lot of talents who are supposed to stay in the universities to help the university system to develop, to be able to develop our research into products, they don't want to work in the university. How many tech experts in this building will want to work in